In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get started again.
Good evening, good morning, wherever you may be around the globe, in the chat room, wherever you are. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera, and this broadcast is coming at you live from the East Coast of the United States, the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina. And I do welcome all of you, folks. We're here, we're live, and sorry for those of you who were listening last night, but my guest had some serious issues going on, and so we had to flip the script, I guess you'd say. So tonight, hopefully we won't have that issue. And we are going to reschedule her. She's really a nice lady. She's a really good guest. I've known her for quite a while. She's been coming on the show, so we'll work it out. Usually she doesn't have audio problems, so whatever happened, she was trying to send me an email with the number. It wasn't coming through, yada, yada, yada. So now you know what happened last night. I do want to say this, however, outside of the issues last night, and I kind of ranted on Facebook about this today, so I'll share my thoughts a little bit and how it amazes me, it puzzles me, that people who apparently have such a strong message to get out to the world, people who want to be guests on radio shows, people who expect to be guests on radio shows, have horrible lines. Absolutely horrible lines. I mean, I don't know, if you've got a book and you want people to really know about it and you want to sell it and you want to get your message out or whatever it is, you would think that you would do, and you know, I mean, it's not like, well, no, I never expected to be a guest on a show, but I am. That's different. But if that's your thing and you're going on multiple shows, and you would think you'd have the best line you can have. I cannot believe that there are still guests today who will try to use their cell phones to do a 2-hour or a 2.5-hour radio show. I mean, come on. And I'm talking to everybody. Can we use a little common sense here? If you're going to come on a radio show, it's radio. So all we have is audio. That's it. So we've got to make it the best we can make it. So if you're planning on coming on this, you know, this is what really gets me, folks. Some of these guests you will see on Fox or CNN or Coast to Coast or Art Bell's show or Sean Hannity or wherever they go. When they're on these other shows, though, man, don't they sound awesome? I mean, don't they have the best audio? Almost like they went to go rent a motel room to make sure they had a solid landline. But then they come on shows like, I don't know, Late Night in the Midlands or maybe an Open Eyes or whatever it might be, even blog talk shows, whatever it might be. Hey, come on, and it's like, well, they don't matter, so I'll just use whatever. They're lucky I'm even calling me. I mean, they would use styrofoam cups and a string if you let them. Honestly, it's just amazing to me. So from now on, I got my blacklist going on here now. What I'm doing is guests who are repeat offenders, they'll wind up on that list, and that'll be it. I just will not have them on no more. I mean, folks, come on. Cell phones, honestly, have killed. Literally killed. Stabbed, killed, rolled it up in a rug and threw it in a river. That is talk radio. And, you know, it's one thing to be a caller and call in with a cell phone. We could deal with that occasionally. But when you're going to be on a show, a 3-hour radio show, and you are the guest, my God, please, use Skype at least. That's all I ask. So I don't think I'm asking too much. You know, it makes my job really hard. When I can't understand somebody, I get angry. I do. I get angry. I just as soon go and I just soon go pull weeds out of my gardens outside than to sit here and try to understand what somebody's saying. It just drives me nuts. All right, so I got that off my chest, and I had to get it off my chest. Let me tell you a little bit about what we have going on here tonight. Shortly, I will have John Gundalo. I think that's how it's said. I'm probably wrong. You know my track record. John Gundalo, and he's going to discuss with us for at least an hour tonight. He says the Islamic Society of Greater Chattanooga is an enemy outpost. Going to talk a little bit about Islam and ISIS, and we'll get the perspective of a retired FBI personnel, and, well, we'll see where it goes. We'll see what he tells us and what he knows and what he thinks, and we'll pick his brain. And in the last, 15, 20 minutes he's on with me, if people want to call in and be respectfully disagree or agree or whatever, well, you're welcome to do so. Then coming up after John will be Courtney Brown, and they did a remote viewing project. It was a 3-part series. We've had him on about the other 2 parts. We're having him on tonight for an hour to discuss the Phoenix Lights and what he has got to say. What I've watched the remote viewing documentary that he did. He sent me a copy, and I watched it, and some of the ideas, some of the things coming out from these remote viewers is incredible, and it makes a lot of sense. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. So news-wise, I do have some stuff I'd like to share with you, and you'll find it all on News in Discovery on latenightinthemidlands.com. Folks, I fought the humidity. I fought the heat today. And I went, because, I was getting mad because, I get mad a lot. I was getting mad because for almost, the last few weeks, it's been really difficult to get out there and take my few mile walk that I like to take. Because it's just been horribly hot. You'll drop over dead. It's been so hot. Well, today I said, oh, well, and I went and did it. And I feel good now, but I'll tell you what. I feel sorry for anybody who's ever been caught in a desert with no water. I feel for you. Just this little walk that I take. My God, it drains you. But so hopefully the sun will start cooling down for us over this way after August here, I hope. But sometimes I've seen it be hot weather right up to December before here. And it's crazy, but I've seen it. And there's a couple of these too. Strange Mars rock anomaly in Curiosity rover photo. Not, it says not. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but it's alien crab monster is what it looks like. But on the other hand, it kind of looks like an Illuminati sun god symbol. And if I thought of it, I would have had Ryan pop on for 2 minutes to tell us about that symbol. But yeah, so that is linked up. You can go check it out. They say that this was spotted in a photograph of the Martian terrain by NASA's Curiosity rover. It went viral on social media early last week, sparkling imaginative speculation among ufologists and Mars anomaly hunters. Well, I don't know. I'm looking at it, and that don't look natural to me. It just don't look natural. I mean, we could keep saying everything we find, right? Everything that's found. Oh, that's just a rock. That's just a rock. That's normal. It's like, what do you need? You need an ET to jump right in front of the camera and throw you the bird, I think. And then you'll say that wasn't real either. So anyways, this strange deal was the subject of long debates on the internet. You need to go check it out. Well, you don't need to, but you should if you're interested in this kind of thing. It's while some members of the group are declared that Curiosity rover had discovered evidence of a large animal life in the form of a crab or spider monster of some sort on the red planet, skeptics dismissed the suggestion, saying that it was nothing but a rock formation. It's always just a rock formation. It might be. Did bit of moon break off, or was UFO watching Apollo landing? Even NASA won't say. This is another one I found interesting. And if you haven't noticed, folks, the last couple weeks, and it's not that I'm breaking away from it completely, because we're going to be doing some of it tonight, but I needed a break from all the craziness going on in the world. And so I've been focusing a little more lately on some of the mysteries of the world, and here's one of them. So this Apollo landing, NASA has been unable to explain why a piece of the moon appears to have broken off in one of its pictures taken during the Apollo 11 moon landing. That's linked up as well. You're more than welcome to go check that out as well. Are we living in a fake universe? I found this one very interesting because I often wonder that myself. And when you hear some of what Courtney's got to say tonight, I don't know about fake, but it's not like you think it is, if you're to believe the remote viewing. We'll get to that. Could our entire existence and everything we perceive of the world be inside a computer simulation? I mean, we could do a lot of shows on something like this. The idea, which was covered extensively in the movie The Matrix, maintains that we are all hooked up to a massive computer simulation that exists somewhere in the distant future. Perhaps this sophisticated simulation was designed to enable us to experience what life was like for those who had actually did live in the 21st century, or maybe the whole thing was put together as a complex science experiment by an advanced extraterrestrial race. It could even be that our entire universe is a simulation being generated from somewhere else. That's all possible. And it's all talked about in this article, which you can go check out over on LateNightInTheMidlands.com under News and Discovery. And, sometimes you could be looking at the sky and, you say, oh, look at that flash. It must have been the sun or whatever. And maybe it was a glitch in the Matrix. I've had people tell me that. Now, I'm not buying into it completely, but I've had people tell me that. Another one you might find some interest in is the FBI, this is from the FBI, saying that Middle Eastern men are intimidating U.S. military families in Colorado and Wyoming. And we'll talk to my guest tonight about this. And while we have suspicions of some of this stuff being hype, some of this ISIS stuff being even fake, some of it, I would imagine, I seen a video, and I'm going to ask my guests about that tonight, that apparently came from Russia. Someone in Russia hacked it from McCain's office or something like that. And this video come out, which showed a staging ISIS whole scenario there. So, it's something that I will definitely bring up tonight. But make no mistake that despite that, just like there are radicals in every religion there is, there are, just as there was at one time Christians who would burn witches at the stake, there are those in the Middle East who would love to cut your head off. So, don't think that, there's a lot of propaganda on it, but, truth is, there are some out there who would love to do that to you. And, these are the same people who will bury a woman up to her neck because she was raped and stone her. Something just don't seem right about all that to me. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. I've got, I think, one more here. Alien, this one, guys, you might like. Alien woman with breast watching Mars rover spotted by UFO lovers, it says. Now this, folks, is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. It looks like a woman, and it almost looks ghostly, standing there on a rock on Mars watching the rover. And from what I understand, this picture was taken, I think it was RT who put this picture out. Let me look. I could tell you in a minute. Yeah, it was RT News that put it out. Apparently this picture came right from NASA, and somebody had discovered that this woman standing on the rocks, and I'll tell you what, it does look like a sexy woman standing on a rock, but she looks ghostly. She looks very ghostly, and, well, it's there, and you can check it out. It says the raw image recently taken by Curiosity has caught the attention of a number of UFO lovers. Well, I think it's caught the attention of more than UFO lovers. And they say that this very well could be a woman and maybe partly cloaked. But no doubt. I'm looking at it right now. Man, does that look like a woman standing on the rocks? And, and again, how many times are we going to say something's faked? How many times are we going to say that, it's just the brain is trying to find something that it recognizes? And, okay, but at some point there's going to be a woman standing in front of you, and you're going to have to admit it. And that could be it. That really could be it. So, I don't know. Maybe it's somebody from the past there. Who knows? I'm Michael Vera, that much I know. This is Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network. A shout out to our radio affiliates quickly. High Point Radio, the top of New Jersey. They cover New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They do it on 100.5 FM and 1700 AM. Hello to all of you. K98 Talk. Hello to all of you. Dark Matter Radio Network. By the way, if you're listening to this on Dark Matter, you wouldn't call in because it's recorded for you. It's Saturday night. But for the rest of you, we are live, and the call-in number is 803-317-2264 when we get around to taking calls. Oh, and by the way, our new affiliate, SHR Media and Pundit Radio, Pundit Press Radio. So thank you all for carrying this show and getting us across the airwaves. So, folks, we'll be back in just a few minutes. Again, this is Late Night in the Midlands.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. You've heard Dr. Leonard Horowitz and experts urge you to avoid deadly vaccinations and illegal operators selling stolen OxySilver and OxySilver copycats. You've heard experts tell you about suppression in alternative medicine and confusing propaganda in healthcare and the truth movement. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver, Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeolove, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from theCureShop.com. Including OxySilver, the world's most powerful silver hydrosol. Electro-energized to put risky injections, toxic antibiotics, and deadly drug pushers out of business. OxySilver is covalently bonded to water. Unlike any other silver product using the frequency of chlorophyll 528, what Dr. Horowitz explains is pure tone love, the universal healer. NASA originally developed covalently body silver hydrosols to keep astronauts healthy in space. Dr. Horowitz added the 528 frequency to NASA's formula and more. OxySilver works three ways to electrocute dangerous germs better than anything, far better than all leading silver products, and without any risk. OxySilver oxygenates and resonates with 528 for faster healing. So help save lives, putting drug lords and criminals out of business, and keep the LNM network broadcasting. Register for our free cooperative at healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy OxySilver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. Buy OxySilver, GI Flora Pro, Green Harvest, Zeolove, and Love Minerals at great discounts at CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with two P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll-free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
The LNM Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information, and subscribe today. Information on becoming an LNM subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you. The LNM Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage at www.LateNightInTheMidlands.com.
Become a late nighter without the late nights. And subscribe now to help Late Night in the Midlands bring you the best guests with the best information.
And as we have been programmed programmed mentally, intellectually. One must be aware of this, being programmed like a computer. The
programming that we are constantly assaulted by throughout our life conditions us, it programs us to a particular worldview.
The project is literally the secularization of the world. New secular or worldly order.
A new study says the news media have been pushing a gospel of godlessness on the American public.
Because this media is here and designed to make sure that they ask no critical questions, to make sure that the only thing that they are concerned about is having a good time, And so that is why today, one of the struggles that you have as young people, that when you want to do different events and you want to talk about real issues, you have the struggle of many of your peers who've been so conditioned in this matrix that they would rather party than listen to the truth. They would rather party and shop and go to the mall than to stand up for issues of justice. They're stuck in the matrix. But you have the responsibility of helping to wake them up.
Now, how do we know that there's a God? After having been thoroughly brainwashed. And how do we know that there's a creator?
On the east coast of the United States, from the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina, you're listening to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera. To talk to Michael Vera, dial 803-317-2264. Or around the world on Skype. Just use Skype ID, Late Night in the Midlands.
Yes, Late Night in the Midlands, because that is what you're listening to. And, I'm waiting for a new sound card to come in so I can add yet another one to my system or systems here. So then I won't have to abruptly, because right now the way it's set up, I can't beat the music, and that's all there is to it. So we're gonna have to adjust things so it's not so abruptly ended. But that's the way it is for now. And here's what we got going here. We've got coming up here is John Guandolo. Islamic Society of Greater Chattanooga is an enemy outpost. He says, and I should mention he's also an author. The book is Raising a Jihadid Generation. The book may be purchased on his website, which is understandingthethreat.com. You could also find it on Amazon. He's going to talk to us about, terrorism, counterterrorism. And, we'll see where it goes. I'm going to feel this one out. So we're going to do that now. All right, here we go. I've never talked to him before. This will be the first time, so it's simply been emailed to the publicist and so on and so forth. And so tonight he's here with us, and we're going to talk to him. Here we go.
Hi, this is John. Please leave a message. I'll get back to you. Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When you've finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, this is Michael Vera with Late Night in the Midlands. And I'll talk to you another time. Have a good night. All right, so I'll save my comments for later because you never know what can happen. You don't want to speak too soon. So I won't speak too soon. Even though I'm tempted to. I won't. Yeah, I do, honestly, folks. I've got a big mouth. And when something is on my mind, I say it. I don't give a damn who likes it and who don't. I really don't. I say it. but I'm gonna hold back here for just a little bit. All right, so we got Courtney Brown coming. Holy smokes, and I just, see, this is why I ranted about this in the beginning, see? I ranted about it in the beginning for a reason, see, because now I could just, it's like getting stranded on an island because you were using a boat with holes in it. You knew it was going to happen, right? Well, I kind of knew it was going to happen. All right, so maybe what we'll do here, we do have Courtney Brown coming up at the 10:30 mark, and I'm going to keep him there. And I guess what I'm amazed by it all. I guess what I could do in the meantime is, well, I know what I can do, I think. Now, what is this? No, see, now Skype is trying to get me to install updates. Every time I update Skype, it becomes a catastrophe. Something goes wrong. There's something wrong every time I upgrade them. Let's see here. I'm going to invite somebody on here for an hour to chit-chat because I'm not going to let it get to me tonight, folks. I'm not. I'm just not going to let it do that. If I have to talk to you for the next hour myself, I could do, folks, here's the thing too. I could easily come on. There's plenty to talk about. I could go 5 hours. I've done it before. But, I try not to torture you. It's because, I think by now, after 8 years, everyone's pretty much got a handle on the way I see things. So I like to bring the guest on so you can hear how they see things. Okay, but that's not going to happen in this first hour. Hey, Ira, welcome aboard.
Hello.
I'll tell you, Ira, it's really not easy sometimes, and I don't want to start whining, but boy, sometimes it's just not easy,
It's not easy being green, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's not easy being cheesy, as they say, but yeah, FBI, maybe he actually looked into me a little bit and said, oh my God, I can't bullshit him. And it could be. I said I wasn't going to say any of that yet, so I won't. Know. But anyways, I don't know. I was going to ask him about, because honestly, his thing, from what I've read about him, because I do my research on my guest, what I read was, he's pretty much, there is a terrorist threat from Islamic folk in this country. And I guess I would agree to a point. You remember how I said that, you don't need all the actors to cause a riot on the street. You simply just need a couple idiots to go out there and start doing it, and the other idiots will follow. And
that's it exactly, yes.
And I think that's the same thing in this case. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think that is exactly what has gone on. We saw that happen with ISIS, for instance, with the uprise of ISIS over in the Middle East. It only took a few to be able to come forward and say, hey, we have this idealism. We want to get back to these extremist ways, or these quote unquote traditional Sharia ways, and so on and so forth. And they got public with it, and they got a few dribs and drabs of people coming in and saying, okay, yeah, I want to join in. They got the extremists to start coming in, right?
Right.
Well, then after it reaches a certain critical mass, and it literally will just burst forth after that point and start infecting everybody that's around. And so they start catching up all the other stuff. Those who are maybe more of the moderate extremists, they'll start joining in. And then the moderates themselves start joining in, and so on and so on and so on. And it really is a very deep snowball effect. But all it took was that one or two people at the beginning to get it started.
And Ira, I could guarantee that even today, if we I don't know how hard we'd have to look, probably not too hard, but if it was allowed, and this is just, I'm bouncing any religion, okay? I know the Christian religion a little bit, so I'm going to bring that one up. But, okay, I'm going off the past. I guarantee that even today, there are some in that religion who, if it was allowed and we told them that's a witch, we've got to burn them, I guarantee they'd go along with it.
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. There are those who are extremist in every group that's out there, whether it is Christianity, whether it is constitutionalists, whether it is, people who are anti-vaccination or anti-abortion, or any of all of the different philosophies and ideologies that you can have, there are the extremists who follow those things, and they can very easily get things started. The way that I look at things as far as the Islam stuff is concerned, just to get to their for a moment.
Hey, that's what we were supposed to talk about this first hour. So,
well, there you go.
Let her rip.
As an example, they have estimated that about 25% or so of the population of Muslims would be considered to be extremist on the scale. Okay. But even if let's just take that 25% there for a moment. There are 1.8 billion people who follow the religion of Islam upon the face of this planet right now. 25% of those is more people that are in America itself at this point in time. So when it comes to the idea of, okay, yes, Islam may be a moderate religion or may be a religion of peace, that's debatable. But, regardless of whatever you might think, the ones that are the extremists there is a vast population of those out there, and they really could wreck this world in a heartbeat, to say the least.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there are some out there who would consider me extremist because of my views. And,
yes.
What? He thinks all the illegals should be pushed back over the border? Oh, I'm horrible. I'm a racist, extremist, and in some eyes. I mean, I've had people call me a right-wing nut, and I'm like, don't even try those labels with me. I am no such thing. I'm not a nut, and I'm not right-wing. I'm not left-wing. I am me. I am Michael Vera, and I am saying it like it is. So
it's how propaganda works, that they label you with that so that whenever somebody hears that reference to you, they are able to put you into that category. Oh, well, he's right-wing, so he must have XXX beliefs. Or, oh, he's left wing, or he's a liberal, so he must have XXX beliefs.
Oh, yeah.
And you can shoehorn people into these different labels and have a quote unquote understanding of what the person is about or what they believe or anything. But that's not the case. The reality is that you are so vastly different from anybody else that's out there, and it's the same way with everybody. Everybody is so vastly different from everybody else, and we really do need to get away from the labels like that.
Well, we do, and that's why, when somebody says, are you a Christian? I look at them and say, what is a Christian?
What's a Christian? 35,000 different denominations of Christianity alone, and each one of them have a different belief in their whole system of understanding. They each believe that they are the right way to go. 35,000 denominations. Just of that one religion,
and to each their own. But for me, you can't. I refuse to be labeled any. I'm not a Christian. I'm not I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a right wing nut. I'm not a left wing nut. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. I'm not none of that crap. Those are earthly names that have been given. Those are titles. This is how This is how those in charge get to sort you out. You pick what you want to be, and they'll put you in that category. And I'm not a book on the bookshelf to be put with the other books. These are all about UFOs. Let's stick it up there.
Exactly. You've got it exactly right. That's why I'm very careful. When I'm speaking to people, I'm very careful about not putting myself into a label or a category. I am me. My own views are my own views, and whether or not somebody else agrees with me or not, I couldn't care less. They're not me.
You know what? The bald ego, and that's ego, not eagle. No wings. We're talking about a bald head. The bald ego. You know what he said? Well, when I broke away from that station, one of the emails, I save all this stuff. There's folders. So, I want, before Joshua takes over in the late future, he's going to have to go over all this so he could learn. But yeah, he goes, what? You're not Christian? All this time I thought you were a Christian. You're going to burn in hell, he said. And I'm like, oh, and God told you that, huh? And so I mean, here I am. That was 2012, and, well, I'm not burning yet. And God hasn't taken away all my my support, like he said God said that would happen. God, I've done none of that. And no, God's not responsible for my heart attack either. Cigarettes and stress will do that. So
yep. Does a very good job of that one right there. Yes, exactly. It's like the same idea with people that are out there that say, oh, well, just because gay marriage is enacted now, that means that God is removing his holy hand from the United States and on that. And it's like, okay, so the fact that we had slavery go on for so long, the fact that we have committed genocide after genocide, the fact that we have, sold our children into slavery, the fact on and on and on, those things were not things that God would be mad about, but now that gay marriage is enacted, suddenly he's pissed off. No, come on, this is ridiculous. We got to get away from these different types of thinking like that.
Well, you know what? I don't know if God's pissed off. I'm guessing he's probably not. I'm guessing that he has no problem with people being gay because he created them, and gay is not something that you decide to do one day. Because I've talked to people who are gay. There are those who just, they go along to get along. So there are people out there who may not actually be gay. They're just, something with their head. They just decide they're going to do anything that moves. I mean, there are those people.
By far.
Yeah, but for the most part, people don't choose to be gay. So they are gay, and God created us up. Remember, God created everything. So we can't pick and choose what we like and what we don't like. You're either all in or you're all out. So pick one, Christians.
It's that way with when it comes to Islam and when it comes to those who are in the extremes of every single camp. The ones who fall into that category of thinking, okay, well, God is going to destroy America just because gays are allowed to marry now.
No, you know what?
That falls into that category of the extremists.
God is going to destroy America because we've got the devil running the country. That's if God ever does destroy America, that's why. But yeah, I mean, that's just ridiculous. You know what does piss me off about the whole gay marriage thing? The fact that we're forced to talk about it. The fact that I mean, we should, okay, everybody's allowed to marry. Great. But, the way they went about it, the government I'm talking about, the way they threw it, and the mainstream media threw it at us, the way they used it for a distraction, the way it was used as a slap in the face is what it was. And
yes.
That's what they did. They, instead of just gradually letting it happen, just like if I got married, it wouldn't be all over the news, right? So, it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't have been made such a big deal because what it was designed to do is piss people off back and forth with each other. So there are people out there who don't go for the gay thing. And you know what? They have that right to be that way if they want, but they have no right to be rotten and mean to others because of it. And at the same token, there's people who are gay who have a right to marry each other. Go for it. But don't make it my news. I don't want to read about it. Good for you. And that's what they did. They threw it at us.
Well, exactly. And then you look at the way that they did things, you can see where their agendas lie and where their distractions lie. 2 hours after it's enacted, the White House is covered in rainbows. But then you had the shooting happen in Chattanooga where soldiers actually died. And instead of immediately putting the flags at half-mast, like is the right thing to do, they wait 5 days for it to happen. And that's only after the public outcried about it.
Well,
so, just as one example of how they play these games against us.
Well, I'll tell you right now, and this shouldn't be no surprise to anybody. I know why. First off, Obama is not, I'm not going to say president because he's not my president. Obama is not American. Obama does not like America. Obama has been put on the inside to take the country down from the inside out. Now, those of you who just look at him as a puppet, you're underestimating him. He's more than a puppet. He is the puppet because things were bad before. But once they got him in there, oh, you couldn't say anything because you're a racist if you do. They know what they're doing. And next, it'll probably be a woman. I mean, I love Trump right now. I think he's kicking butt. But will he get in there? Let's look at the reality here. And I still say that their chosen one was Hillary, but now it seems like the mainstream media is beating her down. So that tells me
they're going with Biden now.
They've got a new plan, and I think that Biden is it. And you know why? And so I'm retracting. I have a right to do that based on new evidence. So what it looks like to me like now is that Biden's going to be their guy, and now he can continue, just like Daddy Bush kept running things for Little Bush. Well, Obama will keep running things for Biden.
Right. Well, I mean, Biden is one that was part of the construction of the Patriot Act, as well as part of the reconstruction of the Patriot Act that was re-voted back in. So, I mean, he's been part of the whole system all along. Whether people really recognize that or not, it is the truth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I'm telling you, and then after that, see, they wanted to do the woman thing, and I'm surprised they didn't use that yet. So that's going to still be up their sleeve. And I'm even looking at some point them doing the first gay president. Whatever they could get people to go, yay, and get them to go for it. I mean, they'll do it, because then if you don't vote for that, see, I don't vote for you because of the color of your skin or your preference in your bedroom or any of that stuff. I could give a damn about any of that. I didn't even care that Clinton got himself some Monica. I didn't care about that at all. All I care about is that you do what you're supposed to do according to the Constitution of the United States of America. That's what I care about. All the rest of it, you cheat on your wife, that's between you and your wife. I could give a damn.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right with all of that. For me, I look around and I see people voting based upon the fact that the guy has nice hair, or he dresses well, or that he has nice mannerisms, and on and on and on. And it's like, are you that stupid? I mean, really, we're surrounded by smart devices, for instance, and these are smart devices for this stupid society, because people really are, as a general rule, dumb. They pay no attention. They are all about being entertained, and that's it. They don't pay a bit of attention to what is actually happening. They're so easily distracted, and it just saddens me, man.
No, what happens, Ira? Here's what happens. They see something with their own eyes, but they let somebody else tell them what they've seen. And that's what happens. So that's what happens.
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yes.
Yeah. And so that's how it goes down. It's like, it's like two people seeing something strange in the sky. It's like they have to hear what the other person said before they, don't do that, folks. Believe what you see, believe what you know, and don't let other people. Look, you're only free as long as you think freely. When you're not freely thinking and you're letting someone else do that for you, you're not free at all.
Yeah, it's like with the whole Planned Parenthood videos thing going on right now. with the new one that's released, Planned Parenthood themselves came out and said, basically paraphrasing here, we do these things so that we don't have to do as many abortions. Really? You do abortion so that you don't have to do as many abortions? What the hell kind of doublespeak is this? This is Orwellian.
What they're doing is the same thing that's kind of going on in China. China's got these vans that'll go around. They'll kidnap people there and take their organs. Same thing here. It's like, this is why... God, oh, man, I get so mad. Here we go, all right? This is why this pathetic government and those making the decisions within it. This is why your kids are being taught about sex in school. This is why you think, why are they have this on TV? They have promoted sex to these children for a reason. They want them. That's their factories. Manufacture the babies. And then at the same time, they get to depopulate. I mean, it's a win-win, man. I'll tell you, it disgusts me. Years ago, we talked about Planned Parenthood and what a farce it was, and people would get mad at us. Now, once again, the truth comes out, right? So are we still conspiracy theorists or what?
Of course, because now, it's just a good editing that made it appear like they were saying these things.
Yeah, well, good
really,
editing.
come on.
Yeah, good editing. They spared us the nonsensical details and gave us the goodies, is what they did. Which I thank them for that, because what was said was said. There's no taking back what you hear there.
Exactly. The reality is that they are selling the fetal tissue. You can't get around that. They have come out with the videos showing that they have admitted that they, do this to the live babies, for instance.
Every single one of those people involved in this, every one of them should be sentenced to hard labor for the rest of their freaking lives.
That's the way that it should be, because according to federal regulations, if a child in an abortion survives the abortion and is still alive after the abortion has taken place, by federal mandate, they have to do everything that they can do to keep that baby alive, and to do otherwise is considered manslaughter. It's a felonious manslaughter charge.
I'm waiting for the video to come out where they've actually had to sit down with PepsiCo, because at one time they were going to use they were going to use some part of that.
They not only were going to, they were. In Pepsi products and Coke products, as well as a lot of food products, there are aborted fetal tissues used in it. It's the human diploid cells. These are made from human fetal tissues from aborted babies, just like they're in vaccines as well. The WB31 or WB37, I can't remember for sure off the top of my head, fetal line of tissues is in all of the different vaccines. They have been feeding us and injecting us with aborted babies.
Just in all fairness, Pepsi, Coke, I didn't hear nothing about Coke, but Pepsi came out and said that they had looked into using it, but they actually decided not to because of public outcry. But the fact that even if they did, I'm sure they did use it, Ira. But
yes, they did. I can give you some.
But here's my thing. Even if they just thinking about doing it, forget that. I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole.
Yes, exactly. And what this does to people is it brings them into a lower spiritual value. This is tantamount to cannibalism. Forced cannibalism without you realizing it, yes, but that is what it is. If you're ingesting into yourself a member of your own species, whether it's an aborted fetus or whether you went and killed somebody and fried them up on the grill, one way or the other, you're ingesting the body of something of your own species. And that, my friends, is cannibalism.
Yeah, this is what I mean. People will outcry about things like, no biggie, but okay, the lion got killed, and yeah, it was a bad thing, and the dentist is a nasty piece of fetal matter. Yeah. Absolutely. But I see more outcry over something like that than other things that there should be outcries about.
Well, exactly. The same people that are complaining and outcrying about this lion getting killed are the same people that say that abortion should be fine.
Oh, well, yeah.
Come on. Where's the dividing line in your head?
Here's the thing. For me, I think that there are certain circumstances that could, and I don't know what those are. That's not for me to decide, but I think that there would be very few, if any, circumstances where something like an abortion would be, not frowned upon in my eyes. However, the fact that you've got organizations like this that are out there encouraging these kids to get abortions, encouraging people, especially black folks, I'm sorry, but it's true, they put them in these poorer neighborhoods because it's a business.
Absolutely.
And they're encouraging these people to get...
And Planned Parenthood was started by Margaret Sanger, who was a eugenicist who stood against anybody that was not white.
Hey, and here's an issue I got, too. This poor little baby never had a chance to put his hands up.
Yep. Yeah. All lives are supposed to matter, right? Yep.
Yeah, they are supposed to matter, but that's not what the media is throwing. The media is throwing Black Lives Matter, and
exactly,
yeah, because they want us to fight about it. They want people to call on this show and yell at us and tell us you're racist because but that don't happen. Why? Because people who listen to Late Night in the Midlands know better.
Yep.
So
here's what Margaret Sanger had to say before Planned Parenthood began. Birth control must lead ultimately to a cleaner race. That's one. And then another one, she said, we should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. The minister is the man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members.
Hold up. Where did this come from?
This is from Margaret Sanger, who was the originator of Planned Parenthood. Oh. This was from her writings called Woman, Morality, and Birth Control, published in 1922 from New York Publishing Company.
And we know for sure that this is hers.
This is absolutely hers, yes. These are from her writings and from her books that she published. The Birth Control Must Lead Ultimately to a Cleaner Race is from her April 1932 Birth Control Review, page 108. From her book, Woman and the New Race, she said, we should apply a stern and rigid policy of sterilization and segregation to that grade of population whose progeny is tainted or whose inheritance is such that objectionable traits may be transmitted to offspring.
Well, you know,
this is the beginning of Planned Parenthood. This is who began it all.
Oh, yeah, it's no surprise. I guarantee when you go in these places, they're not going, have you thought of the other options? They're like, okay, well, let me get the calendar out. It's like me signing a guest. That's how they work that in there. It's like, oh yeah, no, it's no big deal. And they talk you into it and tell you why it's a great idea. But you know, I seen the beginning of a video. I honestly couldn't watch it. I couldn't watch it. I think Alex Jones posted or something. This is what happens during an abortion. I can't watch it. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And that's why parents, don't wait for the school to teach your kids about sex. You do it. Be honest. Be honest with them. Tell them the truth. That's the best policy with kids. People don't think, you want to keep telling them about Santa's coming. Okay, whatever. All right. But when it comes to these conversations, you need to get real and you need to talk to your kids and you need to even tell them where you made your mistakes so they know that you're coming from an area where you've made those mistakes. For me, that's how I am with my kids, man. I am 100% totally honest with my children about my past, my present, and my future. I don't
absolutely. Half the reason why I think that I went through everything that I went through in my life, because I've been through pretty much everything that a human being can go through in one way, shape, or form. And I think that most of the reason why I went through it was to be a better parent. I am able to talk to my kids about anything and everything and have no qualms about it, from the perspective of somebody that has been through it all. I've been through the teenage pregnancy thing. I've been through the going through an abortion thing. I've been through all of the, abuse and everything. There's nothing that I have not done in my life somehow, some way. And that, I think, is to be able to be a better parent to my kids, Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I have no fear about talking to them about anything. I mean, my kids know everything that there is to know about sex and about drug use and on and on and on, because I just have no qualms about making them into better human beings.
Yeah, and Josh could tell you, I don't hold back. I tell my kids, and now people on the outside might be like, why would you tell your kid a story like that? Well, because they need to know that I'm not just talking, that I'm telling them, an experience that I had and why, why it's bad, why this can happen or that can happen, or, I don't get into detail. When it comes to the sex talk, but I mean, they're not stupid. If you don't teach them, the internet will, or the teachers at school will, and you might not like what they teach them. So that's all I can say about that. So, be honest with your kids. I totally am,
It's how we're going to make a better world. I mean, the people that try to hide everything from their kids or shelter their kids from everything, it's like, look, we're in a horrible world right now. This world is ugly at this point in time. And the only way we're going to get out of the ugliness is to face the ugliness and get through it. And we can't face the ugliness and get through it if you keep sheltering your kids from the ugly things that are out there,
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
That's right. And folks, just kind of jumping. Before I even get into that, I'll talk about what I was just going to talk about later. But Ira, how would you like to bring up children in a country where if your daughter is raped or abused in some way, that the best scenario that they have for you is to bury her up to her neck and stone her. Can you believe that there are still civilizations out there doing this stuff?
There absolutely are, and they're trying to get it to be everywhere, without any qualms about it. They try very hard to spread it as far as they can go.
You know what? I'd be dead quick if I was in one of these countries, because the first time I saw something like that, I'd not only shoot the SOBs, I'd stick the butt of the gun right up their asses.
Yep, indeed, without a doubt. Yeah, that's another one of those quote unquote extremist views, right? But these are actual countries that are doing this. It's like us being the best of friends with Saudi Arabia, even though Saudi Arabia has stoned to death more people, beheaded more people this year than any other year combined.
And listen, I'm talking to you, Middle East. Now I'm talking to you because I know we've got listeners. We've got listeners in Saudi Arabia, Iraq. Sure, we got listeners everywhere. So you're listening to me. I have nothing against anybody. I don't. No, it doesn't matter what religion or race or what have you are. But people, come on. If you're stoning women because they have been victims, you're a moron. And you know what? You need a foot in your ass. That's what you need.
Animals wouldn't even do that.
Yeah, come on. It's time to stop living off the fairyland that you guys have been fed and take control back. That's not how you treat women. I've watched videos that just sicken me, Ira. I've seen where a woman even talks and he slaps the crap out of her.
Yes.
If that was my sister, I'd break your neck.
I have known people that were like that, and I beat the ever-living crap out of them every time I saw anything like that occur. I'm just telling you that right now.
Yeah.
I had no qualms about it whatsoever. They knew if I was around, they needed to be obedient to their woman. That was really what it came down to.
I get angry.
I mean, no joke.
I do. I get angry about that stuff. It really makes me mad. And so while people are fondling over, animals being killed, which I think is bad too, don't get me wrong. But, before you go making an outcry about that, how many women, I wonder, today alone were buried up to their necks for being victims? I mean, imagine being a guy in a society like that. Oh, I'm just going to rape who I want because she says anything, they'll stone her.
Yeah,
what the hell?
Exactly. And a lot of it, I mean, you look back into the Bible. The Bible itself advocates for that kind of thing to go on. So the fact that these types of things are happening in the Middle East with like the Muslim religion, for instance, and the different extreme viewpoints that are there in their writings, we have the same right here, right now in the Bible that everybody follows and making the kids read as bedtime stories and on and on and on. The same things have occurred there. You take, for example, in the writings in Leviticus, I believe, or Deuteronomy. I think it's Deuteronomy, where if a woman is raped and her virginity is taken away, she must marry the rapist, and the rapist has to pay 50 shekels to the guy, to the girl's father as payment.
Come on, who's making these rules here? Richard Simmons or somebody? I mean, what the hell's going on here? I'm glad, and this is why, folks, I thank God every day that I live in the United States of America. But, apparently not enough of you appreciate this. And it's too bad, because that's the kind of thing that's going to come here. And I'll tell you what, you're not burying my sister up to her neck and throwing stones at her. Not while I'm breathing here.
Toxin brought up a great point. He said that he was in Iraq, and yes, it is true. And I know this for a fact as well, that according to the Sharia law, if a woman is raped, she has to have 3 witnesses that are all male come forward on her behalf to say that she was raped. Otherwise, any rape is her fault.
Oh, yeah. And what is it? In Saudi Arabia, a woman can't leave the house unless she's accompanied by a man?
Right.
You
Flintstones. And is not able to drive. And
a bunch of Flintstones. Get a life, will you? People, get a
and
life.
These are supposed to be our best friends. Our quote unquote president goes over there, bows, and kisses the frickin' ring of this guy on his knees.
I'd kick his ass and take his ring.
This is the type of relationship we have.
I see. I'm getting edgy here. These kind of people make me really edgy that do these things. I mean, my God. Anyways, what are you going to do?
It's insanity. It really is insanity. It's depressing. But again, these are the dark things, the shadows that we really have to face in this world as a unified people to say, look, this is ridiculous. This is what we have got to get out of. This type of activity is like what it really reminds me of Lewis Black.
Hey.
Saying this type of activity is literally us being 10 hairs away from being baboons.
Hey, you want to really piss them off? Let's put Hillary in a bikini and get her running through the Middle East.
I don't know. She might look too much like a man for them. I don't know.
Well, that'll get her killed too. Yeah, because some of these countries, I guess most of them, I don't know. I've not been to any, and I'm not going to any either. I like my head right where it is. But I guess some of them, right? Gay is against.
Oh yeah,
against the religion
if
too.
If you're gay, you're dead. Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. So if you're gay,
even if you are not Muslim enough, you can be killed.
Well, and you know what? A lot of these kings or whatever they are, and in these countries like the Saudi Arabian king, I bet behind closed doors they probably got young boys in their bed anyways.
Yes, well that is actually a very common practice over there because they cannot get with a woman. Because of their rules, some of the things in the Hadith basically advocate that they are allowed to sleep with other males, basically in a non-gay fashion, to get away with it. Basically,
I'm sorry, folks. We have definitely polluted this first hour tonight, but you know what? It's true. So, I mean, we're just talking about what's
we're not talking about anything that's untrue. One of the big things that's advocated over there is that, little girls, for instance, can get married off to these people at 6 years old because that is what Muhammad did. He married his wife at 6 years old, but that was okay. Because it was the prophet that did it.
Wait.
And so they do this now.
When did Muhammad do this? How long ago?
Well, this was in the year 619 or so.
How the hell do they know what Muhammad did?
This was what he was known to do. I mean, he was a very public figure during that time. So,
well, you go 600 years from now and you ask people about me or you, and they're probably going to have a whole nother story than what it was.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it depends on who writes your Wikipedia or whatever the heck it is.
Well, that is true. Yeah. I mean, there are writings from the historical, records during that time that show that this was the activity that went on, but whether or not those things are, actually in existence or if they are, added into history, who knows? It's really hard to say. But one way or the other, that's why they do what they do, is because the prophet himself did it, so it's okay for everybody else to do it as well.
I think I got something here, Ira, okay? I think I know why the government made it so public about gay marriage, see? They want it because they'll have certificates on them all, so when the big flood comes back and the ark drops its little door to let people on, if you're gay... Or if you're a woman, probably, you're not going to be allowed on. It's going to be just all the leaders and their young boy slaves.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, they might have little girls as well, but the thing with the girls is that they're not allowed to have full intercourse with the little girls up until the time that they're about 9 years old. After or before that period of time, they are allowed to do anything short of actual doing intercourse. So that's just the laws.
Well, I'll tell you what, if there is a God, and I believe there is, God help you when you get there. His fingers are much bigger than yours, that's all I'm going to say.
May thou be squished underneath his tiny, tiny finger.
It's gross, and I don't even like talking about it, but that's why I got Ryan, because he covers all this stuff.
Yeah, well, I think between he and I, we both paid some attention to that subject as well as some others that are just as bad. But again, these are the darknesses that really have to be looked at, because unfortunately they are existent. And with us being flooded with person after person coming across the border, bringing this crap in to here, more and more we're seeing that this country is changing into a third world country at this point in time, and you cannot deny it.
Well, and at the same time, it's us who are bringing this crap into other countries too, by the way, because Iraq, I talked to people from Iraq, and they said that before the Americans came in there was no such thing as porn. People weren't killing each other on the streets and all this stuff that's going on now.
Absolutely right.
They didn't have that until good old Uncle Sam came in with his wild
spreading
party.
Democracy.
Yeah.
Spreading democracy. That's what we did. We spread democracy, and democracy means porn, and it means bringing in all the serial rapists and all the serial killers. And
all Uncle Sam's done the last, I don't know, maybe 50 years is spread his legs and lay on the couch. He's not.
Yeah, he's gotten. You know, he's at this point he's on life support because he's done so much methamphetamine that he can't even think straight anymore.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Uncle Sam. Yeah, Uncle Sam's not in charge anymore, and if he is, he's on heroin because his CIA brought it in.
Yes, indeed.
It's a mess, Ira. It is. I got Courtney Brown coming up in about 20 minutes. I'm looking forward to that. So, Ira, if you want to stick around for that, because you've been so gracious to come on with me this first hour, I'd be more than happy to have you. If not, don't feel obligated. You don't have to.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I've talked to Courtney about the subject tonight. Well, not the Phoenix Lights. I'm definitely interested in hearing about it, but I've talked to Courtney a couple of times at this point, and man, he is fascinating. He's really interesting, to say the least.
Well, I've watched the video today, the documentary today before the show, and when you get near the end of it, and these remote viewers give their take, and then Courtney puts it into perspective, I'll tell you what, it makes so much sense. They talk about stars being portals or gateways and stuff. Well, we'll get into that tonight because it's freaking amazing. But it makes a lot of sense. But anyways, yeah, so we were going to talk about Islam in the first hour anyways, Ira, and we did that. So
yeah. When it all comes down to everything, I guess just as kind of like a little final statement, the main thing is don't have any fear and just have an understanding of where the other people are coming from, because then you can fight against it. You know, that's kind of the main thing. If you don't have an idea of what is going on in the head of this other person and know what the psychology is behind why they're doing what they're doing, you're going to have no ability to actually fight it, because you're just going to be lost in their crazy is what it comes down to. And frankly, there are a lot of crazies that are out there, regardless of whether it's in Islam, whether it's in Christianity, whether it's in Catholicism, Buddhism, on and on and on, whatever ism you happen to follow, there are crazy that's in all of those. And we just have to watch out for those. And that's what we really need to fight against.
Right. And, you know, it takes a while. It does. Because, you know, growing up, I thank God that growing up, I didn't have this stuff pounded into my head. Like, my dad was a religious guy. He would go to church once a week usually. So, but, you know, and I would usually go with him because, you know, Dad, you make him go alone. Next time he goes in the store and you want this or that, he might remind you of how he was sitting in church by himself. So I'd go to make the old man happy. And, but that was it. You know, once I moved out, I mean, that was the end of church for me. And I always found it very boring, personally. I never understood. I mean, I ask questions. Like, I come in and I go, why are we all dipping our fingers in this water and touching our head and our, you know, why? And and then he explained it to me and I'm going, but Jesus isn't here, so he didn't bless that water. Oh, it's blessed through this priest. Can anyone prove that? I mean, because what you got is a bunch of old people who probably have been picking their nose all day, sticking their fingers in this water before I do. And now I'm supposed to dip this water on my facial area. And I don't feel very comfortable about that. So, you know, and then there was this you go up and the priest puts this the bread in this, in this wet, soggy, nasty bread in your mouth. And at one time, and I spit it on the floor, and my dad slapped me in the back of the head and told me, you just spit Jesus' body on the floor. I mean, that's confusing.
Yes.
I'm like, that ain't no body, it's bread. And it was in his hands, and so, yeah, it never made sense to me. I always asked questions. It wasn't pounded in my head. And I think that if you look at the Bible as a historical, historical prospect, I think you get more out of it than if you look at it religiously. In my opinion, I think you're wasting your time.
Yeah, I would say definitely don't use it as a beacon of morals. If you really get down and read everything that's in it, it's not a very moralistic type of a thing to do, But that's just me, I guess. But we'll see what happens.
Well, yeah, and if we did follow it to a T, right, then we'd have to kill all gay people. We'd have to. I mean, women would be seen, not heard. I mean, if a woman has their period, they have to go away for 7 days. So that part alone, I don't know. That one might not be too bad. But, I kind of like that one.
I can maybe get behind that little.
Well, now you know who wrote all this stuff. It was man.
Exactly. You got it.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, here's what we're gonna do, Ira. We're gonna take a break.
I'm getting yelled at now.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I mean, if you really look at it, you can see that the opinions of
it's all masculine.
I mean, I'm not throwing stones at nobody here. But, it is what it is. I see it for what it is.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone else says. This is my lesson. This is for me to learn on this trip around Earth. So, I'm not going to let no one else think for me. So I stand my ground on it. But let's take that break, Ira. We'll come back. I'm going to get Courtney Brown on with us next, and it's going to be fascinating, I think. I think the conversation of what he's going to talk about is just huge. So
definitely.
So I'm looking forward to it, folks, and we're going to take that break now. We'll be back. This is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera. I've got Ira Robinson on me. Even the FBI is afraid to come on this show, folks. We'll be back. Want the truth? Late Night in the Midlands knows you deserve it. That's why we make it easy for you to listen at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Go on over, become a member, be informed, and by all means inform others. Folks, we're not your average radio show. We cover everything. Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network.
Hi, I'm Joshua Vera, and I wanted to inform you that Late Night in the Midlands is offering limited on-air advertisement. With 30 and 60-second spots available, or inquire about placing your banner ad on the LNM website. Or go ahead and package a deal, but either way, get the attention you deserve and join the LNM family. Contact us at mv@latenightinthemidlands.com. Again, that email is mv@latenightinthemidlands.com.
Hello, this is Lisa Marie, here to tell you about Oxy Silver, legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. Use 528 Superfood as a great tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight, and Zeolove and Natural Clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from CureShop.com, including Oxy Silver, the world's most powerful silver hydrosol, electro-energized to put risky injections, toxic antibiotics, and deadly drug pushers out of business. Oxy Silver is covalently bonded to water, unlike any other silver product, using the frequency of chlorophyll 528, what Dr. Horowitz explains is pure tone love, the universal healer. NASA originally developed covalently bonded silver hydrosols to keep astronauts healthy in space. Dr. Horowitz added the 528 frequency to NASA's formula and more. Oxy Silver works 3 ways to electrocute dangerous germs better than anything, far better than all leading silver products, and without any risks. Oxy Silver oxygenates and resonates with 528 for faster healing. So help save lives, putting drug lords and criminals out of business, and keep the LNM network broadcasting. Register for our free cooperative at healthyworldaffiliates.com/4948. That's healthyworldaffiliates.com/4948. And buy Oxy Silver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from theCureShop.com. Buy Oxy Silver, GI Flora Pro, 528 Superfood, Zeolove, and Love Minerals at great discounts at CureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. Cure Shop. Or call toll free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
Become a late nighter without the late nights. And subscribe now to help Late Night in the Midlands bring you the best guests with the best information.
The LNM Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the Listen Live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com.
In many cases is the idea that the aliens are essentially trying to create a hybrid mix of themselves and ourselves. They're interested in our DNA, our genetic makeup. And beyond that, they're interested in our personalities, our affection for our children, our love for one another, a whole kind of range of what we think of almost the most human characteristics we have emotionally.
We have to face up to reality that, for example, the UFO phenomenon is a real phenomenon, no question about it. So anybody who debunks the UFO phenomenon itself don't know what he or she's talking about.
Hey, Michael, I promised you I'd call in for a little bit, and here I am.
I know that I bashed Bush the entire time. I wasn't even allowed on Coast to Coast there for a while because I was told not to talk about Bush.
In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Late Night in the Midlands. We cover everything.
On the east coast of the United States from the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina, you're listening to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera. To talk to Michael Vera, dial 803-317-2264 or around the world on Skype. Just use Skype ID Late Night in the Midlands.
All right, Smith, thank you for that. And folks, as he said, we are back. This is Late Night in the Midlands. And by the way, tomorrow, I'm not on the air tomorrow night. Tomorrow night will be either a recorded show or somebody jumping in the seat. Depends on whatever becomes easiest. But yeah, I've got medical appointments tomorrow and things like that. I'm not going to, scramble all day and then try to hop on the air. So I won't be on tomorrow, but I'll be back with you on Friday. And Friday night, you know what? I don't even have it on my calendar yet. I just signed a guest for Friday, and all I can say is it's got to do with predictions. And so it'll be a fun Friday night show, and so I hope you'll tune in. Don't forget, become a late nighter without the late nights, and we're going to get some shirts designed and get them on the website. Late nighters, you know, we're going to get some of that going here shortly. I have actually Late Night in the Midlands shirts here that I made. Autumn and I created them like 5 years ago, and I still wear them. I wear them for everything now, though. I work in them and all that stuff outside, and it's time for new ones. It's definitely time for new ones. So anyhow, oh, and by the way, I was going to say this earlier. I'll say it now. My son Josh had been here for the entire summer, you know, just kind of sitting back, observing how all this is done, and being a part of it in some sense as well. What we hope to do is by next summer, he's got until then, he's going to decide what he wants to do, but maybe he can address the younger audience, and it doesn't necessarily have to be what I do. It's like you get your teen becomes old enough to drive. So you don't get him a brand new car, you get him, you know, a safe car, because you know there's going to be dings and scratches, right? So how about he, you know, puts a show together, and next summer he can do it. If he wants it to be an hour, it could be an hour. If it's going to be 30 minutes, it's 30 minutes, whatever it is, and we're going to get him on the air and get him ready to roll, because one of these days I won't be here. And when that day comes, I want to still listen to Late Night in the Midlands from the other side. So I've got to put somebody at the helm who I can completely trust to work gracefully with Ira, because Ira's going to live till he's 90, so he's going to be around for a long time. So he'll be like the butler on Batman. Yeah, you're the one that will have the keys to the Batcave. So.
Indeed, Mr. Wayne.
Anyways, I'll stop rambling. But we are eventually going to get Josh on here and get him doing his thing, and whatever it might be, I don't care. You know, whatever he wants to talk about. It's just, you know, I'd rather he gets the scratches and dings out of the way before he would become. And who knows if not Josh? Who knows? Maybe his show will be some big success. So I have another son too, but. You know, you get too far down the line. I think everyone's got a little bit of a sheeple child, right? Because I know I do. Josh isn't it though. Yeah, so I've got 6 biologicals, so I'll let them figure out who I'm talking about. We just know it's not Josh. That much we know. All right, so let's get.
I was going to say too, tomorrow night. Go ahead and plan on the show being here for listening. I will go ahead and hop on here with Joe. We're going to do Brothers at Arms live tomorrow, so we'll just transfer right into doing a 3-hour on L&M as well. So,
man, you're going to be doing a radiothon.
Indeed. It should be very interesting for y'all to listen to, and I'll see if I can convince a couple of people to come on as guests. So we'll see what happens.
And folks, here's how you make things interesting. You call in and you interact. That's how you make things real interesting. That's why, like last night, I mean, I could have easily just kept going and opened lines, but, you know, I'd like to know that we're definitely the calls are going to pour in. They've gotten better, a lot better, but, you know, they got to be more before I could, you know, go 2 hours of open lines. That's a long time. You got to get the calls, right?
Indeed.
All right, so we're going to bring Courtney Brown on, and let's see here. We're going to talk about the Phoenix Lights. He is the man behind the Farsight Institute, and they remote view. And he'll tell you more about it, because I'm looking and I seem to have lost. I've lost the bio, but but you know, he's no stranger to the show. So that's like Nori having on Hoagland or something. All right,
frequent flyer.
Yeah, so here we go. All right, Courtney Brown joining us here on Late Night in the Midlands. Good evening, Courtney. How are you?
Hey, Michael. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you just fine, and I thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, that's great. Are we live now, or are we waiting?
Yes, sir. We are live. And
oh, that's great. Okay, well, it's great to be here, Michael. I want to thank you so much for inviting me back.
Oh, absolutely. I watched the Phoenix Lights documentary of yours today. I watched the full thing, and wow, fascinating. So what I'd like to do is just a brief background on yourself for we have new affiliates tonight. So
okay.
Yeah. So if we could start there, and then let's go into the remote viewing of the Phoenix Lights.
Super. Well, I'm Courtney Brown, and I'm the director of the Farsight Institute. That's www.farsight, Farsight, like seeing far.org. ORG, because we're a nonprofit. And we're the largest scientific place anywhere, the biggest, the best, whatever you can say, that focuses on the study of the remote viewing phenomenon as it is done using the military or military-derived methodologies that were developed by the United States military and used for espionage purposes. And I can say that we're the biggest, the best, because we're the only. There is no other place that you can find these large public experiments where people can follow the data collection procedures, as well as the projects we do, as well as a huge wealth of educational materials, and so on. So for those of your listeners who are new, remote viewing is a mental process. Some of your listeners may think of it as psychic. We don't use that word, but it's a function of mental transference of information across time and space in complete violation of the mainstream accepted laws of physics, of quantum mechanics, and relativistic physics. But your listeners who are new should recognize that those laws are over 100 years old in their fundamentals. Nothing has changed in over 100 years in those. And that new theories of physics are emerging that do account and do allow for the remote viewing phenomenon to occur. So the classical interpretation of quantum mechanics is simply incorrect, and similarly with relativistic physics. Now, I'm a mathematician, but the math is not in dispute in quantum mechanics or in relativistic physics. The math is perfectly okay. It's the interpretation that's in dispute. And basically that goes back to a dissertation that was written by Hugh Everett, who wrote his dissertation at Princeton University, and he had an interpretation of a quantum mechanical experiment called the two-slit experiment that was radical in its day, but it basically had an understanding that there are other realities or other parallel timelines, that we live in a frequency-based universe, and that the classical interpretation of quantum mechanics, that everything is just one, there's just one unique version of us, and that mass is solid as we have it, as we see it, is just simply wrong. And that interpretation was widely laughed at in his day, but today about 18% of mainstream physicists have adopted that other world's interpretation, the Hugh Everett interpretation of quantum mechanics, which allows for a generalization of quantum mechanics to the macro world, which then allows for the remote viewing phenomenon to be understood. So it's mental transference of information, and we work at the Farsight Institute with the absolute best remote viewers who use these military or military-derived methodologies that were used for espionage, but now used for scientific purposes. And these viewers are scary good. They have trained for way over 10, 15 years, going on 20, and they're the best on the planet. And they can describe things across time and space with a level of accuracy that is superior to that which would be achieved if they were physically present and watching things with their own eyes. And they do it with under a condition that's known as working blind, meaning they are given no information at all about what the thing is that they're supposed to perceive, which is the target. And that can be people, places, events, whatever. yet they are able to describe those things in perfect detail, which is why the military was interested in the phenomenon in the first place. It allowed them to use it for spying without having the risk of having a spy get caught.
And I got a question about that. My wife and I both were curious. Okay, so they're not told anything about the project. Then how exactly do they know or what they're supposed to be? I mean, how do they get onto? I mean, you want them to remote view the Phoenix Lights, so how did they wind up doing that? If they
this is actually not well understood among many people who do practice remote viewing out there, but it's an old finding for us. It's not in dispute. We know exactly how it works, but there's a lot of misunderstanding out there. The basic idea is remote viewing works with the principle of telepathy, meaning there is a mental connection between the person who's doing the remote viewing, that would be the remote viewer, and the person who is analyzing the remote viewing data for the first time. That means the person who's comparing those data to the target. We can call that person the analyst. And so the remote viewer is doing this session for the purpose of satisfying the informational needs of that analyst. That's why the remote viewer is doing it. So that mental connection that exists between the remote viewer at one point in time and the analyst sometime in the future, when their analyst is looking at the data and comparing it to the target, is what makes the target a target. It's the analyst's thoughts at the time that the target is being reviewed with the data, compared with the data. The thoughts of the analyst are acting like a laser pointer to point the consciousness, the focus of perception of the remote viewer to that spot. This was actually discovered sort of accidentally, but through an interesting experiment that was developed back in the 1980s, actually dating back as far as the 70s, but mostly the 80s, where there was an experiment that was fatally flawed in its design, but nonetheless had a result that was really interesting. There would be, you can call it a pick a target out of 5. And so there were 5 things that were possible targets. One was real, and the other 4 were decoys. And the real target was picked by some dynamic device, such as a random number generator or a computer. Now, the remote viewing data would be supposed to be perceiving the correct target as chosen by the computer. And the data would be given to the analysts, who would be blind. They would not be knowing which was the correct and which were the decoys. So the analysts would be looking at the data and comparing it with all 5 targets and seeing which one matched. And you had a very unusual phenomenon occurred. You had something that some people called the switch session phenomenon, or the displace target phenomenon, where the remote viewing session would be a really good description, but of one of the decoy targets. It was of the wrong target, not the one that the computer picked. Well, we spent close to 10 years investigating that. It was an obsession for me until we finally figured out what was going on. What was happening was that there was a mental connection between the remote viewer and the analysts who were comparing the data to the targets. And the analysts had all 5 targets on their mind. They were looking at all 5 targets and comparing those with the data. So you were going to get some targets that were being described that were the so-called incorrect targets, because that's what that's what the analysts were thinking. And so this phenomenon was addressed in the early remote viewing literature statistically, because the people that were trained to look at remote viewing, to do remote viewing in the early days, were trained in statistics. So what they did was they came up with a statistical method to account for the non-independence across the target pool. And they developed a procedure called the stacking procedure. And that was absolutely ridiculous because it addressed an informational leak using a statistical approach. That's like saying your bridge is wobbling. So let's analyze the bridge and apply some mathematics to get rid of the wobble in our data that's showing up on our oscilloscope. Well, the bridge is going to fall down, for heaven's sake. If you don't fix it, don't get rid of the data. I mean, don't eliminate the wobble on the oscilloscope. Fix the bridge. So, unfortunately, fortunately for us, because it gave us a problem to solve, but the statistical approach was ludicrous. There was an informational leak in the experimental design which fatally flawed the collection of the data. It actually corrupted the collection of the data. And once we figured that out, it allowed us to fix it in our experimental designs. We certainly don't use that early experimental design. I don't know anybody that still uses that experimental design because it really is fundamentally flawed. But nonetheless, that was the really great experimental design that led us to the understanding of the problem in the first place. And so we're very grateful for the people who were doing that early design because it led us to an understanding of what was going on. And so the thoughts of the analysts actually create the focus of perception. In the early experiments, it didn't matter what target the computer picked. The computer was completely irrelevant to the entire process. What mattered was the thoughts of the analysts. Now, on a statistical basis, they actually had statistical significance of over many targets, over many experiments, and they used that to say that psi functioning or remote viewing was working, but they basically ignored the fact that some of the targets were incorrectly described really well. And so the reason the statistical significance happened is that there was a little more intellectual or mental focus on the result that came out at the end after it was revealed to them that the computer chose target whatever. Then they'd focus on that a little bit more. So over time, there was a little bit of extra emphasis on the so-called correct target. So they got their statistical significance, but they never figured out what the problem of the experiment was. And that's one of the great early results of Farsight, that we figured out that one. That was one of our most important contributions intellectually to this entire field, figuring out what makes a target a target. So your question, Michael, is really, really good.
Well, thank you. I was just, I've been wondering it, and the last couple times you were on, I absolutely forgot to even ask you about it. So, good, we got that done. Now, again, it was fascinating, and I don't know how much you want to reveal tonight.
We don't have any breaks, because the thing is that the remote viewing that's done in the DVD or in the video on demand, however people want to look at it, is recorded live on video. So even if we talk about it, it doesn't take away from it at all. You have to see it to believe it. The remote viewing, as it's coming through with the remote viewers, recorded live on video under totally blind conditions. The remote viewers are not told anything. They're given an email from me that's totally non-leading that simply says there is a target, remote view it, send me the sessions. So we do all of our sessions now on video, live, and I have never, ever heard anybody ever say that the remote viewing, when it's recorded live, is anything other than absolute spine tingling. I mean, you're literally on the edge of your seat, because you as the audience know what the target is, because you're watching it, you're watching the video, but it's clear that the remote viewers do not know what the target is, and that they're piecing it together. And the descriptions are so scary good in accuracy and scary good in describing the so-called verifiable elements of the targets, which is the things we know to be true, that it just keeps you on the edge of your seat and your jaw drops to the bottom of the ground. I mean, it's an unbelievable experience to watch these. And we have so many of these projects that we've done that it's not like it's just one or two. If anyone has any real doubts about the remote viewing phenomenon, just watch them. I mean, there's no possible way you could have doubt after watching them over and over, after watching one after the other, with these remote viewers who are really the very best. Now, when we say these are the very best, it's like playing the piano. I don't know if you're a great pianist, but I'm just assuming that you know how to make some noise on the piano, just like I know how to make some noise on the piano. But if we want to go hear the piano as we know it can be done, the best, We listen to somebody like Lang Lang play it at Carnegie Hall. And when you hear Lang Lang play it at Carnegie Hall, you say, oh, so that's what it's all about. That's what can be done with this thing called a piano. Well, that's what the remote viewing phenomenon is. A lot of people, everybody has intuitions and psychic perceptions. But to see it done on a level that's scary good, you watch these remote viewers live on video. And their names are, in this particular project, are Jazz Smith, who works out at the UK, using a set of procedures known as CRV, and those procedures came out of an official military program that was housed in the Defense Intelligence Agency that was officially closed in November of 1995, but everyone I know and respect understands that the thing was reopened right away afterwards, and the remote viewing projects in the U.S. military are now much bigger than they were back in those days. And then the other remote viewer that works in this project is Dick Allgaier, and he works out in Hawaii using procedures that are known as the HRVG methodology. That's for the Hawaii Remote Viewers Guild, and that was taught to him by Glenn Wheaton. Glenn Wheaton came out of Special Forces intelligence and something that was best thought of as a movement, a non-official program, but a movement within the military that later became known as the 1st Earth Battalion, that was featured in the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats, starring George Clooney and Jeff Bridges. So you have two different branches of Army intelligence and two different styles of remote viewing, both working within the Phoenix Lights project and many of our other projects. And it's fascinating to actually watch them do it. You don't have to know anything about the methodologies to understand what they're doing with the remote viewing on video.
Well, it is fascinating, and I'll tell you, I'm glued to it. And it's so fascinating that what they say later on about the stars and such, I find even more incredible, and it almost makes sense to me.
You're talking about the very surprising, for this project, extraterrestrial interaction that Dick Allgaier actually had, a direct communication with one of the extraterrestrials in the Phoenix Lights ship.
Oh, yeah. And
that was really surprising, because these remote viewers are trained to go in and describe the target. Having them actually enter into a conversation with one of the extraterrestrials is not normal. It's not expected, because they don't know what the target is. But in that particular case, Dick Allgaier was remote viewing he was getting the exact same data that Jazz Smith got. It was like carbon copy stuff. And they were working on opposite ends of the planet, and absolutely no communication between them during the entire remote viewing phase of the project. And the only real difference is that when Dick Allgaier and Jazz Smith were describing this tall guy that seemed to be in charge of one of the ships. He had a lot of shorter helpers around him. They both described the same person similarly. I mean, incredibly similarly, identically. But Dick Allgaier got really close to his face, just a few inches away, in his remote viewing persona, and the extraterrestrial saw him. Now that's very unusual. Now, humans, we know this for an absolute fact. Humans cannot tell that they are being remote viewed, meaning when someone is remote viewing somebody else, another human, never is the remote viewer perceived by the human. So, never. Now, if someone in your audience says that's not true, some people are very sensitive, can say, first of all, nobody remote views random people like your neighbor, because to do remote viewing, you have to actually have a project set up. It's a very expensive deal. It's a very complicated process. Nobody uses such a thing for looking at their neighbors. I mean, it's a huge investment in time and energy. And the people that do remote viewing only do it for very serious scientific projects with a lot of preparation and the whole stuff like that. So it's impossible for it to be used for casual Oh, what's that when you... What's the word that you use for looking in, peeping in on neighbors? Like if you're looking through... Yeah, but casual voyeurism. It's impossible for it to be done for casual voyeurism, period. So when you hear people say that that's not true, they perceived remote viewers perceiving them, they're just... I'm not insulting them, but it's delusional. They have never perceived remote viewers looking at them because never has a remote viewer ever looked at them in the first place. It's not possible for remote viewers to spend their time doing that. It's way too difficult to do. So just on the level of did it ever happen, I guarantee it's never happened. But there have been, but also on the level of when we do remote view other humans in official projects, either the military or at Farsight or whatever, like if you're at the military where it's remote viewing a Russian spy base or, something in the, or some other type of terrorist activity or whatever. Well, the remote viewers, go to a location, perceive things, never, ever do the humans at those locations turn around and look in the direction of the remote viewers. Period. It's never happened. However, extraterrestrials, some advanced extraterrestrial species, that's not the case. With some advanced extraterrestrial species, they can tell automatically. They're like genetically capable of doing that. They can see the remote viewers sort of vestige, sort of some type of whatever the remote viewers leave at the target site, like a ghostly image. They can see it, and they actually can turn right in the direction. This has been known for a very long time, that some extraterrestrials can see a remote viewer immediately and engage in a conversation if they want. For example, in Ingo Swann's book Penetration, there was a instance where the military had been at a secret location, had him remote view an extraterrestrial base on the moon without telling Ingo Swann that was the target. And Ingo was like really flipped out when he said, "This is the moon. What are those people doing over there?" And the people, the extraterrestrials there, turned right around and started pointing at him where his focus of perception was. And then the military people who were in the room, the military person, the so-called monitor, did something that in today's day and age was like we call really absolutely ridiculous. But in that day and age, it was understandable. He said, pull out. We don't want to be seen. Get out of there." But the extraterrestrials could see him. And so we've actually known this for a very long time. But in the Phoenix Lights experiment, in none of our experiments do we try to have that happen. So in the Phoenix Lights experiment, we had a situation where Dick Algar simply got really close to this guy and started describing the shape of the pupils of his eye, like the shape of pupils were like a cat. And so he decided he got really close, they both, Daz Smith and Dick Algar, described the guy's hair, face, and things like that. But Dick Algar got really close, and then the guy just started to talk with him. He just started to say, "Well, since you're here, I'll give you some information." And then Dick just kept on saying, "Well, this is what the guy's saying. He's saying this," and so he just reported on back. So what was so interesting about this, now this was not planned because we never plan on a communication. What we plan on is passive, go out there, perceive what's there, and report back. We don't ever have part of the problem or part of the tasking be to get into a conversation with who was ever out there. But in that case, it just happened by accident. And Dick Algar reported it. And it was interesting in particular because that meant that in 1997, when this event was taking place, that's the important thing to remember. This thing took place on Thursday, the 13th of March in 1997. The extraterrestrials in that spacecraft above Phoenix knew full well that they were putting on a light show for the people down below. But they also knew that simultaneously they were explaining what they were doing to people in 2015. So there was a time loop going on. There was a triangle. people on the ground, people in the ship, and humans in 2015. And the extraterrestrials knew full well that they were having a communication with people in 2015 to explain what was happening to the people on the ground in 1997. Now, you have to understand that the Phoenix Lights experiment is a little different for us in another way also. Normally, we start with things that have hugely verifiable components based on physical evidence, in the sense that we normally have a picture, like in our last three and the previous two projects dealing with extraterrestrials. Normally, we have never actually dealt with just extraterrestrial type targets before, but the last three we did, and that was sort of fun, something new for us. And with regard to the Cydonia Mars target, the so-called Face on Mars target, as well as the aliens on Iapetus, a facility that's on Iapetus, we're dealing with pictures that are supplied by NASA. And we have very clear, verifiable components in those targets that we can see in the pictures. We know exactly what the terrain is like. Iapetus is a barren, icy moon with craters, and the target is exactly in the middle of a crater, on the wall of a crater. I mean, all that stuff is verifiable, and the remote viewers have to describe it spot on. And they do. Phoenix Lights is different because there's very little photographic evidence of it. There's a few videos that were taken, and there's some stills that were taken, but they were taken by private individuals. There's no official governmental release of the thing. So this is a little different from us, but the reason we could do the project in the first place is because it was witnessed by people in 5 states. That includes Sonora, Mexico, and 4 states in the American Southwest, and over a period of a number of hours, and for basically over a 2-hour period, they settled in over Phoenix. And so you had these lights over Phoenix. Now, the lights themselves were connected to the craft, a ship that was clearly visible by tens of thousands, verifiably, tens of thousands of people in Phoenix, potentially hundreds of thousands over the 5-state area, but over Phoenix, tens of thousands of people. And that included the governor of the state, Fife Symington, who was a former Air Force officer, a pilot, and he was the governor of the state. And he said point blank that he knows every machine that flies, and this was bigger than anything. And the thing was flying really low, and you could see the underbelly of the ship, and that the lights were connected to it. And it was so big, it was blocking out the sky above and the stars. So the government was silent for 6 months after the event. And after 6 months, they had a flight lieutenant come out and say, oh, that was just some flares that we dropped. Well, even the governor of the state, Fife Symington, said, those weren't flares. I mean, flares don't fly in formation, and let alone over 5 states. And they don't hang around for a couple hours right overhead. And they're not connected to the underbelly of a ship that you can see. So, I mean, the official governmental story doesn't match with what people saw, and we had tens of thousands of people in Phoenix see it. So that was enough for us in terms of verifiable components to have a desert city in Phoenix, hundreds of thousands of people on the ground, tens of thousands looking up at this thing, lots of very high-profile eyewitnesses, including the governor of the state, a lot of safety people, firemen, police officers, things like that. So with all those witnesses, it was a project that was sort of waiting for us to happen, especially since the governmental story of what happened was so nutty. It was a perfect type of mystery for us to go in and say, well, this is what really happened. So under totally blind conditions, we sent the best remote viewers on the planet to see, and the government story of flares did not win. But we got some real interesting surprises in the package. And when you see the video with Dick Elgar in particular having a conversation, that's such a thing. That just doesn't happen.
It's incredible, Courtney. I mean, for me, I'm a believer. There was a time where I was a little skeptical, but I've seen enough now where it's been proven to me. Maybe not others, that's their business, but for me, I believe in this. And the conversation that he had with this extraterrestrial was, I don't know how else to say, but fascinating.
Yeah, that's why we do these things on video now. Because, Michael, your sort of skepticism in the beginning was understandable, because in the old days, in the military days, and in the early Farsight days, everybody did remote viewing with paper and pen. And to be quite honest, nobody likes to look at paper and pen. No one likes to look at pieces of paper, especially when you're trying to demonstrate that information transference across time and space is possible. I mean, just scribbles on a piece of paper, just don't do it. But when you see it done live on video by these world-class remote viewers, that changes everything. That's a complete game changer in terms of what's possible. So that's really what this is all about. Having the planet change, having the entire species, all of humanity change because of a fundamental recognition that this type of thing is real. It's really a very exciting time to be alive right now, because we're on the cusp of a tremendous fallout of mainstream ideas and the replacement of those nutty ideas with something different that's really very different, that will really help explain to people who we are as a species, who we are as individuals, why we're here, what we're doing in here. It's really a time of great potential for us.
It really, truly is. And what I got, the part of the conversation that really hit home with me is when he was told by this extraterrestrial that don't look at looking at the universe, I guess, in a 3D fashion is kind of like looking at the Earth as being flat. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, actually, that's very important. That's a concept that has been around for a very, very long time. There's a book called the Flatlanders, and it's the idea of the whole idea of the book, the Flatlanders, is that people living in a, let me talk mathematics for a little bit. Okay. There's also a band, by the way, called the Flatlanders. So anyway, in fact, the piece of literature that I'm talking about is actually not a book; it's a short story. But nonetheless, it's a very interesting story, and the idea behind it is that you can have a two-dimensional surface. Think of a flat surface like a piece of paper. But that flat surface is located in a three-dimensional space. And so if you're on the flat surface, you don't even know that the three-dimensional space is even there. For example, let us say you're on a balloon and you're an ant, and you're walking on the surface of the balloon. Well, as far as you're concerned, the surface of the balloon is all there is. You don't know that there's air below you, and so as far as you're concerned, everything is a two-dimensional universe. And you don't know that you could go through the balloon and get to the other side and there's another dimension, because you're just seeing the flat surface of it. So that's the idea of Flatlanders. And the idea that the extraterrestrial was communicating to Dick Allgaier, that's similar to that, is that we humans don't understand that the three-dimensional space that we live in plus time is not all there is. Now, in physics, they refer to this three-dimensional space plus time as Minkowski space. So when we say Minkowski space, we're just talking about 3 dimensions plus time. But the extraterrestrial is saying that Minkowski space is not all there is. There's other dimensions. And that, from a mathematical point of view, is very easy to understand. And if you have other dimensions, then you are able to go from one spot in Minkowski space to another spot in Minkowski space, say from one star system to another star system, without having to travel in the normal way. For example, if you're on the balloon and you're an ant, if you want to get from one side of the balloon to the other, you have to think in terms of walking around the entire balloon. Well, if that ant understood three-dimensional space, then the ant could go right through the balloon and have a shortcut and come out the other side. So that's the essential element that the extraterrestrial was explaining, that there's more dimensions than just the ones that we think of in Minkowski space. And he translated it to what we talk about with star systems. And when we look in the sky, we just think of stars as balls of light that are created by fusion atomic processes, and they're spewing energy out in the form of heat and light and subatomic particles and so on. And the extraterrestrial said, but that's not actually what's going on. What you actually have with a star is like a hole in space, and you have energy from those other dimensions coming through that hole in space. And that's where, so that's that other realm is what they utilize for transportation, and they get faster than light travel, which is how they were there. Anyway, so that was a very interesting sort of physics lecture to come from the extraterrestrial, but it was very interesting also because it blended with concepts that we do understand now in terms of dimensional surfaces that are placed within larger dimensional spaces. Actually, if you want to know some of the names for that, a plane, such as a piece of paper or a balloon, those are things called hyperspaces. Hyper, like someone is really hyper, but a hyperspace. And a hyperspace is something that they refer to as an n-1 dimensional space. And what that means is if you have a three-dimensional space and you're looking at something one dimension less, which is a two-dimensional thing, you have a plane. But the plane is located in a three-dimensional space. So a balloon is a two-dimensional thing. It's just a surface that has just two dimensions, but it's located within a three-dimensional space. And so we have a universe, and our universe that we call Minkowski space is actually a hyperspace because it's embedded within a larger dimensional space, and that's what the extraterrestrial was referring to. And it's sort of fascinating to sort of, you see, I am a mathematician. I'm a mathematician that works in the social science program at a major university, but the mathematics and none of any of this is not in dispute. The only thing that is in dispute is the interpretation. We're making advances in the quantum mechanical and relativistic realms all the time, but we do quantum computing now. We understand entanglement a lot better, but the issue is the interpretation of the fundamental quantum mechanical phenomena is just simply, it dates back over 100 years, and it's really not changed. The only thing that's actually changed in the interpretation, in the early days, they had what they called the Copenhagen interpretation of the quantum mechanical phenomena, where basically you have everything existing in a probabilistic state until it's observed in some way, and then that pops it out, and you have one reality that's in front of us, and that's it. And, it was Hugh Everett that said, that's monstrous, that's crazy. But nonetheless, that was back in 1957, and he used the word monstrous. But the only real change that's happened in that Copenhagen interpretation is that they've blended it with relativity to be able to talk about the standard model. But other than that, it's the same. It's over 100 years old. It's dated. It's as monstrous as it is incorrect. The interpretation is the only thing in dispute. No one's questioning the mathematics. The mathematics is still the same. Even when Hugh Everett wrote his dissertation, no one was questioning his mathematics. It was the interpretation that they were questioning. And it was a political battle at the time, to be quite honest. That's what it was.
So basically, Courtney, when we're looking into the night sky and we're seeing all these stars in space, then what we're actually seeing is holes in the space and time.
Yes, that's exactly what you're seeing.
And so we're actually not seeing a burning star. We're seeing into another dimension.
Yes, that's exactly what you're seeing.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, you're seeing stuff come out from another dimension. That's exactly that's exactly what you're saying.
So how would that fit into as far as like the idea of the Big Bang theory and all that kind of stuff is concerned? Would it
would be the same. It would be the same. No,
right.
it's the same exact thing. That means that the Big Bang would have occurred with the same principle that the stars that you see today are occurring, meaning that in a point there was an emergence of energy from a larger dimensional realm, producing a hypersurface, which is all the universe that you see and I see. But what we do when we see stars, we're seeing many Big Bangs. We're seeing many or small windows into that other realm. And that other realm is the same realm from which everything came in the first place.
So that other realm is essentially a huge array of energy.
Yes,
basically.
It's whatever it is, it's huge, and it contains our entire universe. And the Big Bang does not question the Big Bang. It just says when you're looking at a star, you're actually looking at the same principle that you were looking at when you had the Big Bang. And when you see energy coming out of that point that you call a star, well, that's how the universe started. It was a point, and a huge amount of energy came out, and it exploded and expanded, and here we are, Michael. So this was revolutionary thinking in terms of interpreting. So the Big Bang is really, well, actually, it is in dispute. A lot of people question the Big Bang, but it is the dominant theory that's taught in the university, even though there's a lot of arguments among physicists about whether it's correct or not. But nonetheless, it is the dominant thing. But what this extraterrestrial was explaining is that this basic idea that we have with the Big Bang is really fundamental to every star we're seeing. And there's this other larger multidimensional realm of which our Minkowski space is a subset, is a smaller thing. I mean, and this then has to be connected with the quantum mechanical stuff of Hugh Everett. By the way, Hugh Everett studied under John Wheeler at Princeton, and when Hugh Everett came, and John Wheeler was basically, he was a great physicist in his day, but he was raised in the time of the Copenhagen interpretation with the original people, such as with Bohr, and actually that was in Einstein's day as well, and as well as Heisenberg and others. And so the idea of challenging those theories when the originators of those theories were still around was really, really tough. And so Hugh Everett basically was laughed at, he was mocked, and he had to leave physics. Well, he didn't have to, but he did leave physics. Maybe he had to. I'm not sure how his job prospects would have been, but he ended up working in the Defense Department in the nuclear program, and he was one of the prime architects of the principle of MAD, M-A-D, which is mutually assured defense, which is mutually assured destruction, which basically said the Chinese and the Russia and the Soviets could make their missiles and point them at us, and we would make our missiles and point them at them, and nobody would shoot because everybody would die if that happens. So Hugh Everett was the one who designed that, and that was lucky because back in those days there were people in the military as well in the civilian realm who were actually very well placed. They were in the White House. They were, people that worked. That they weren't presidents, but they worked in the White House. They were also people that were high-ranking in the military. We're talking very senior people in the military who were actually arguing in favor of a first strike, very similar to the movie Dr. Strangelove with Peter Sellers. And it was Hugh Everett, believe it or not, that really stopped that argument. They were actually, can you imagine what would have happened if they actually did it? which is, like the way to stop the Russians and the Soviets and the Chinese was to strike them first. That would have been a complete Armageddon, and America would have gone down in, well, I guess there would have been no history books because we'd all be dead. But if there were history books, America would have gone down similar or much worse than Hitler, Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun. I mean, it would have been the worst possible thing. So Hugh Everett really saved us to be able to talk about it to this day. And so, he was a brilliant man, but now about 18% of mainstream physicists have actually adopted his other worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, which allows for a generalization of quantum mechanics to the macro world, which means that 82% still cling to the old Copenhagen interpretation.
Yeah.
But those are older people, and we're waiting for them to go through generational replacement. They're going to retire and die off. So the 18% are younger people, and so there'll be a change. So, sometimes these ideas take a while, but they eventually do happen. And so that's what we're looking for. And so with an other worlds interpretation or many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, you actually can see a way that the remote viewing actually works.
Right. And so, Courtney, I would say this to people who think it's far-fetched. These stars, they could lead to other dimensions and other areas of space. And people who think that's funny, I direct you to the pictures of all these large crafts that have been photographed around our sun.
I was going to bring that up, Michael. Yes, very good point. Exactly what I was going to bring up. There's so many different videos and images showing these different craft going into and out of stars and volcanoes and on and on and on. And it would really lead right to this being an explanation of that.
Actually, what we have now is official governmental denial of the extraterrestrial UFO phenomenon. But among people who know, including within the government, there really is, it's not in dispute at all. I have been in rooms with two-star generals on down where the extraterrestrial content or their extraterrestrials are simply talked about like you and I are talking about the price of milk at the store. They're not doubting it at all. And so when you say, well, look, here we are sitting in a room with colonels, two-star generals and stuff like that, and we say, what if I go out and tell everybody? And they'll just look at you straight in the face and say, go ahead, tell. I'll just deny it and you'll look like a fool. So, it's not a situation where the government is ready to sort of force people to accept the existence of extraterrestrials or remote viewing. But there has been a change, and the government is no longer forcefully trying to debunk or forcefully trying to disrupt groups that do believe or do study this phenomenon, this stuff, the extraterrestrial phenomenon. Because in the old days, and that goes all the way up into the early 2000s, but certainly through the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, the government was very active in disrupting groups that would be focusing on things like remote viewing or things especially like UFOs, extraterrestrials. They typically would do it by infiltrating the groups one at a time with people, and those people would typically cause problems. They'd become valued people within the group, but then they'd create dissent or discord, and the groups would end up fragmenting, and people would walk away in disgust, and no one would ever know the difference. So they had other methods, but that was one of the many methods that they used. And the idea was always to keep the groups small, fragmented, relegated to the New Age bookstore community, things like that, but not highly organized with a well-orchestrated media machine and so on. So basically, that has ended. The government is no longer actively trying to disrupt groups. It's letting people who want to find this information find out about it, to study it. But similarly, on the other hand, the government is not trying to force people who are not ready to accept it or to look at it or to understand it or to conceptualize it. It's not trying to force those people to accept the reality of extraterrestrial life, UFOs, remote viewing, or whatever. So it's letting people sort themselves out in their own way, but without an active element of disruption. So that's a change, and that's a good change. And now the people who are interested in this stuff can sort of study it and do it without disruption. But on the other hand, it still leaves a large number of people who voluntarily want to live in a state of denial, and that's a choice that they have. And who's to say what's the right thing to do in situations like that?
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to the Phoenix Lights and the aliens basically who were interacting with us with that, do you think, or did they kind of reveal anything about whether or not they are having a real large direct interaction with us here on Earth, or is it?
Well,
maybe
they clearly
they
clearly are trying.
Right. Okay.
That's why they showed up and hung around in the skies for over 2 hours. I
wonder if it's. I was just going to say, I wonder if it's because they are trying to get maybe more people into thinking about them as opposed to.
They're trying to nudge. They're trying to nudge people. They're trying to push it, but they're not trying to force it. They're doing the same thing that the government's doing now, which is to try to let people who are ready to see it, to accept it, to move to the next level. But they're not trying to force it. They're not trying to land right in your backyard, grab you by the scruff of the neck, slap you around and say, "Wake up, you idiot. Can't you see a greater reality?" They're not trying to do that. The government is not trying to do that. Nobody's trying to do that. So, but they are obviously trying to nudge humanity in a better direction. That's why they invest. The extraterrestrials are investing a huge amount of time, energy, and resources in planet Earth right now, in humanity right now. So that's a big investment, and you don't have this type of investment just happen for nothing. I mean, it's a big deal. And similarly, when they were interacting with our remote viewers, they were taking their time out of that experience. They were not just interested in being a light show over Phoenix in 1997. They took the time out to very carefully choose what they were going to talk to or what they were going to say to those humans in 2015. So that was a very interesting thing. So that also tells you that they, by the very fact that they did interact with our remote viewers, that tells you that they highly valued what we were doing. And they didn't ignore us. They didn't say, "Oh, that's just some humans. How ridiculous. That's so stupid." And just ignore us. They stopped what they were doing. It was like they were waiting for us. And they had a message to give that was well thought out, prepackaged, and just what we needed to hear. It's sort of like the Matrix with the Oracle. And Morpheus asked Neo, "What did she say?" And no, actually, it was Neo who was wanting to tell Morpheus, and he said, "But this is what the Oracle told me." And then Morpheus would look at him and say, "She told you what you needed to hear." And so, that's what the extraterrestrials are doing. They're telling us what we needed to hear. And I guess what they felt we needed to hear was how the extraterrestrials could be here in the first place. That this idea of there being a larger dimensional space within which our Minkowski space is located was what we really needed to see, to hear, and understand.
Well, it actually makes a lot of sense to me, and and people constantly, even today, still, we're waiting on disclosure, waiting on the new. How much more disclosure do you need than a huge craft going across 5 states, seen by tens of thousands?
But Michael, just consider this. Despite the fact that there were potentially hundreds of thousands of witnesses and verifiably tens of thousands of witnesses, you still didn't get a planet Earth-shaking type of wake-up. You get 7 billion people, most of which are voluntarily staying in denial. It's just a gradual process. And I can only assume that the extraterrestrials sense that if they were to force it, it could produce some level of trauma, psychological trauma on the part of humanity, and they want to avoid that. I can only assume that's what's going on. So they're letting us wake up in our own way, but nudging us. And that's sort of, it's a very, I hate to go into music, but it's very Bob Marley-ish. Bob Marley was a reggae singer back in the 60s and 70s and early 80s, and part of the spiritual philosophy that he promoted with his music was that people were essentially asleep within a system, and he called that system the Babylon system. And his role was to try to help people to awaken from that system and to be then fully sentient or fully alive beings. And his role was that of both a prophet and an awakener through his music. So he sort of approached the masses in a way that was very similar to the way the extraterrestrials are approaching humanity. Actually, you could say the same thing about Richard Wagner, because with Wagner in his so-called ring operas, he had a character called Siegfried, which was translated into Bob Marley's terms, the Rastaman. He was the one who saw no fear, felt no fear, and was fully awake. And it was his existence that led to the freeing of the rest of humanity. So, the idea of humanity being asleep is something that's been around for a very long period of time. The question is, how do you waken it up? And the extraterrestrials are playing a strategy that's very similar to a Bob Marley approach, which is not to grab humanity by the scruff of the neck and slap it around and say, "Wake up, you idiots," but to slowly nudge it into awakening.
Sort of like the seditionists of the universe.
Yeah, it's interesting. By the way, I should say, for those people of your audience who want to see the documentary, I encourage you to go to our website, which is www.farsight.org. That's FARSIGHT.org, O-R-G, because we're a nonprofit. And you can't miss it. It's right there, Phoenix Lights, right at the top, big banner. But anyway, it's available as a DVD as well as a video on demand with Vimeo, the DVD through Amazon. However, for everyone who does go to our website, please sign up for our free newsletter, because we are a nonprofit and we do not spend a dime on advertising. So we have no way of telling people what we're doing. So that is the only way we have to communicate with people, to let them know. So once a week we send out a newsletter, usually on Fridays. And if you just put your email address in there, and we never give out the email addresses for any purpose whatsoever, period, full stop, end of story. And so there's no spam concerns, and you'll hear from us once a week with regard to the things that we're doing. And we're doing an awful lot of stuff. So it's the best way to keep informed with what we're doing.
Well, Courtney, I highly recommend people, if you're interested in this kind of thing, and I don't know how you can't be, I recommend you do view this documentary. I did. It's fantastic. I mean, it's had me thinking all day. It's like I find it incredible. So, Courtney, I thank you so much for joining us here tonight and sharing that with us. Ira, did you have anything else?
Yeah, one other question I might have would be, did they give any indication as to whether or not what was seen with the Phoenix Lights was the same type of craft that was spotted on the moon, for instance, over time, where there have been like these triangular shaped craft that have appeared there as well?
It had that signature type of shape, but we're not. I'm sure if there's one flying over Phoenix, I'm sure there's a zillion others. So I'm sure we're not talking about the same craft, but it does seem to be a very common configuration.
Okay.
Sort of in the shape of a carpenter's square.
All right. Well, Courtney, again, thank you for spending some time with us. You keep putting them out there, and we'll keep having you back. I love talking about this stuff, but more importantly, I'm looking so forward to the day when one of those giant ships like that come and hover over my home for a while. I've seen a big one go by, but I've never seen one hang and hover.
Well, look, I want to thank you both for inviting me on your show again. I really enjoy coming here. You're really spectacular hosts. You really produce really great interviews. And I want all of your listeners to know that this type of subject matter is not yet covered by mainstream. And so if humanity is going to awaken, it is literally because of the efforts of people like Michael and Ira. And so this type of show, Late Night in the Midlands, is much more than just a show. It's literally the cutting edge of a planetary awakening. So I really want to thank you guys, and I want your listeners to know that by listening in, they're actually helping to change the planet in a fundamental way. They may be just thinking they're having a good time listening, but the reality is this is how a planet changes. This is how a species changes. And so big stuff is going on here, and I want to thank you for letting me participate.
Oh, thank you, Courtney. We wouldn't know about these things if it wasn't for guests like you. So thank you so much, and keep up the fantastic work, and we'll keep you linked up over on Late Night in the Midlands.
That's super. Thanks.
All right. Have a good night, Courtney.
Good night now.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. There you have it. Courtney Brown. I think Dr. Courtney Brown would be how it would go. But, the whole part about the stars fascinated me. And I know what people are thinking. Well, how could you get close to one? We have been told that the sun is so hot. And yeah, I know we feel it, but how do we know what exactly we're feeling when we know? So, I mean, you got to realize that everything that you have been taught, you have to now question because you've been lied to so much. I've seen absolutely legitimate photographs of huge crafts near our sun, even drawing energy from it. So yes. I know that it is possible to get close to the sun. So why wouldn't it be possible to be in a protective type device or craft and go through that, whatever it is?
Yeah. Well, exactly, and it comes down as well that with these different races that are out there, for instance, they may be from planets that are very advanced from ours. They could be millions of years ahead of us. Who knows what kind of technology they have? They could have technology that anything like a sun would just be like us messing around with a puddle of water. I mean, there are those type of things that are out there that could be thought of. So that's just one aspect of it, let alone whether or not what we're really told about what is a star actually is. We don't know. We haven't been there. So how can we know for sure that what this is this big, huge ball of flaming gas and, huge amounts of heat and all that kind of stuff from it?
And let's face it, that they're not telling us that there was once life on Mars. And if you're half awake and you've been paying attention, you've seen the evidence that there was some damn life on Mars. Okay, but we're not being told that. So no, I just, everything they say, I got a question. As a matter of fact, I still wonder if when we see the moon and it's red, I just wonder if at that point we're not at a certain angle where we actually see the moon for what it really is.
Yes, the actual true color of what it is and everything. There really is a lot of evidence that shows that that's exactly how it is. We're lied to constantly about every dang thing that there is. Up until 2, 3, 4 years ago, we were told, oh, well, it's impossible for there to be water on the moon. And yet all of a sudden out of nowhere, they're launching missiles up into the moon and trying to blow up the moon to make water appear,
Well, knowing
that there's water there.
Here's what I'm learning. I'm learning that I don't believe anything that they tell me and that anything is possible. That's right. It's even possible that I could go outside tonight and see a huge Bigfoot hauling butt down my street. It's possible. Prove to me that it's not. And here's something else, folks. For me, maybe not you, but for me, I have seen the craft with my own eyes. I believe myself. I know what I've seen. And if I didn't, Autumn also seen it. Okay? Thank God she was able to get out there and see it too. I seen it with my own eyes. It was huge. Not as big as the Phoenix Lights deal, but it was huge. And no, unless you could show me one of these at an airport, show me where these supposed man-made crafts are. You show them to me, and I'll believe it. Until then, this thing came from somewhere else. This craft was not from Earth. Can I prove it? No. Do I have to? No. I just know. My intuition tells me what I've seen. And obviously, I mean, show me just one other like it on this planet, and I'm in.
Absolutely right. And the opposite is true as well, that out of all of the sightings that are seen, last month alone, MUFON reported over 1,600 sightings just within the United States alone. If even one of those was truly an extraterrestrial craft sighting, then that means that the whole game has changed.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, and the fact of our universe sitting within another, it's like putting your cup in the cup holder, right? So your cup's in the cup holder, our universe is in the universe holder, and what's behind that, and there's all these dimensions that we have been looking for and talking about. And I don't know, it's just, man, I'll tell you what, I think if we knew the truth, if we could just, and we're slowly getting there, but if we knew the truth, I think it would just twist the mind into pretzels, because based on everything that we've been told and lied to about. But incredible. I believe Courtney Brown. I trust Courtney Brown. I'll say that now. I've been having him on and looking at his work long enough to say that, who's to say? It's like I had an encounter with my mother who had passed away. I can't prove that to anybody, but it happened. It absolutely happened. And for people who say, I don't believe it, well, good. Then go away not believing. And I want to be a fly on the wall when you pass away. I want to see you on the other side and see how surprised and scared you are. Because all your life you went through life saying, nope, I learned in school, I learned this and learned that. You didn't learn anything. You were brainwashed. And truth will come out at some point, Ira. We've got to take our last break here. After this break, we'll come back. We'll even open lines if anybody wants to call in. Give us your thoughts. What do you think? We'd love to hear from you. After the break, this is Late Night in the Midlands. I'm Michael Vera. Our first guest, the FBI man, did not show up. Our second guest, Courtney Brown, mind-blowing. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere. Hey folks, do you love Late Night in the Midlands? Do you miss shows because of the time of night? Do you wish you could listen at your convenience? Well, we can help you out with that one. Become a late nighter without the late nights and subscribe. Become a late nighter for just $5 a month. That's right, $5 a month for the paranormal, the unknown, the known, but most important, the truth. Go to www.latenightinthemidlands.com and subscribe right away to become a late nighter and help keep the LNM Radio Network on the air. The LNM Radio Network offers a moderated chat room at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Just click the chat and listen page from the drop-down menu at the top of any page on the website, or click the listen live button at the top of the homepage at www.latenightinthemidlands.com. Need your L&M fix? You can find us on social medias everywhere, like our Facebook fan page, Late Night in the Midlands, or our Facebook group, the LNM Radio Network. our other Facebook groups, The Last Frequency. You can also find LNM on Twitter at LNM Radio, and all of this and more can be found on our website at www.latenightinthe.midlands.com. Again, that's www.latenightinthe.midlands.com, bringing the truth back to talk radio.
Hello, this is Dick Farrell, here to tell you about OxySilver. Legally available only through CureShop.com and HealthyWorldStore.com. Don't be fooled buying silver products from copycats and criminals. Read Dr. Horowitz's book, Healing Celebrations, to learn how miracle healings can be made to happen through faith, prayer, and a pure diet. Get great immunity using vitamin C, D, and OxySilver, Liquid Dentist, GI Flora Pro, a top-shelf probiotic. Use Green Harvest as a great-tasting meal substitute for energizing organic nutrients and losing weight. And Zeolove, and natural clays for detoxifying your body. More advice, all these products and more are available from TheCureShop.com. Register for our free cooperative at HealthWorldAffiliates.com/4948. That's HealthyWorldAffiliates.com/4948. And buy OxySilver and other great products in package specials at great discounts from TheCureShop.com. That's CureShop.com with 2 P's. CureShoppe.com. Or call toll free at 1-888-621-7611. That's 1-888-621-7611. Do it now.
Hey, folks. Do you love Late Night in the Midlands? Do you miss shows because of the time of night? Do you wish you could listen at your convenience? Well, we can help you out with that one. Become a late nighter without the late nights and subscribe. Become a late nighter for just $5 a month. That's right, $5 a month for the paranormal, the unknown, the known, but most important, the truth. Go to www.latenightinthe.midlands.com and subscribe right away to become a late nighter and help keep the LNM radio network on the air.
For 15 years, I've been obsessed to find out what was going on inside of him. It's been my life work and my ultimate failure. This force, this thing that lived inside of him came from a source too violent, too deadly for you to imagine. It grew inside him, contaminating his soul. It was pure evil.
On the east coast of the United States from the capital city, Columbia, South Carolina, you're listening to Late Night in the Midlands with your host, Michael Vera. To talk to Michael Vera, dial 803-317-2264 or around the world on Skype. Just use Skype ID Late Night in the Midlands.
Oh, the sounds of silence is putting it mildly. I'm telling you, when I had my sighting and it was a close-up one, I would have never known for a second that anything was above me if I didn't look up. I'm telling you, silence is not the word. This is just amazing, absolutely amazing technology, and I think it was a big reason why it's being held from us. I mean, people who say that, oh, it's all the government's reversed this and reversed that. Okay, maybe a few of these things they do. Maybe they pull their hoaxes and this and that. But I'm telling you, it goes far, far beyond that. And anything, people say, well, how can this be or how can that be? I have no idea. I don't know how it works. But, if you close your mind and you say, well, I read this and it made the most sense to me and this is what I'm going with without any proof at all, then what happens is you've now cut off your bridge to learning because you never know. You just never know. I think I know quite a bit about the topic at hand, but I'll never say that that's it. This is what I think and that's how it is, because that could change, and it often does. So we're back, and folks, don't forget, donate and subscribe. We still need donations. That's what keeps us alive. We didn't quite make it last month. So we're trying to make up for that, folks. We have to, because the bills keep coming and we have to pay them. And while we have got some subscriptions, we've probably given away more than we've got. I don't know, but please help us out, subscribe, and definitely donate. Keep us on the air, and don't forget, listen Saturday night. I'm not going to take away. I don't like to take away from the L&M network, but I got to tell you, if you missed the show with Marie, the extraterrestrial, you're going to want to, one of two things. You're either going to want to subscribe and go listen to it, or you're going to want to listen Saturday night on the Dark Matter Radio Network. I am in the, and I'm proud to say it, I'm in the Art Bell time slot for Saturday. So, we try to put the best there. And believe me, that's one of the best. I think it's going to be classic. And she's incredible, Ira. I read the blog she put out the very next day, the article she wrote. Fantastic. And I can't wait to get her back on. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm already planning on it. And here's what I want to do. Again, let me mention this once more, folks. I want you to send in your questions. She is going to actually channel. She's going to talk to the extraterrestrials. She's one of them, she says. She's a walk-in extraterrestrial here on Earth. And she's going to ask questions. So you send me in your questions. I've got some now. I mean, many of you have responded and responded big. I thank you for that. But there's still time. You got until the show ends on Dark Matter Saturday night. So let's say Sunday morning, 12 a.m. Sunday morning. That's it. Cut it off. Questions won't be taken. So you've got up until then. Any questions you want to send, I'll give them to her, and she'll do the best she can to get whatever answers she can. We're going to do it right here on Late Night in the Midlands, and it's going to be, if nothing else, going to be very, very, very interesting. So send in your questions. And Saturday night, also, you look at the picture I have on the homepage of Late Night in the Midlands on the picture slider. There's a sky picture. It's a picture of the sky somebody took. There is a formation in that picture. If you could give me an explanation of what it is, Saturday night, Dark Matter audience only, you can email me, and I'll give you, I'm going to give away 2 more subscriptions to L&M for the Dark Matter audience for the 2 best explanations I get for that sky formation. And now I'm out of breath, so go ahead, Ira.
And one thing they can do as well is on the website lnmradionetwork.com, if they click on the pictures tab on the top of the menu, the picture in question is also posted there, and they can take a look at it there. So they can either look on the slider that's on the main homepage of lnmradionetwork.com, or go to lnmradionetwork.com and click on the pictures button at the top of the page, and you guys will be able to see it there. It's a very interesting picture. We got a couple of interesting responses from people in the chat room regarding it, and I'm curious to see what people are going to come out with as far as the emails are concerned as well. It's a very interesting picture. I'm very fascinated by it. One thing I wanted to mention as far as the silence thing is concerned, when you were mentioning it there with regards to the extraterrestrial crafts, is the idea that what we're seeing in the mainstream media, whenever you hear of anybody talking about UFOs or flying saucers or whatever the terminology they want to use that day to make fun of the whole thing, they always put a sound effect with the flying craft. And that really is
irritating.
Not the case. It's not the case. You don't hear anything when these things are around. And I think that's one of the main things to make sure to pay attention to, is that when you see these craft or anything like that, I think one of the main things or main ways that you can know that they are man-made or extraterrestrial is the extraterrestrial ones dead silent.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything.
Yeah, you're not going to hear a woo, 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 woo.
No.
Yeah, that's only in Hollywood and in the U.S. military. You're not going to hear it in these extraterrestrial craft. And I know people say, you're saying extraterrestrial craft. You don't know that for sure. Well, guess what? I do. I just do.
We've been proven enough to know it. And if you guys are not comfortable with stating that, we are. We have no issue with it. So,
yeah, well, and for me, it's not about even being comfortable. It's about just the fact of, truth and fact is never, well, it usually isn't comfortable. I mean, we could go to any topic. And we could find some uncomfortable areas for people. So, it is what it is. We're not alone. Get used to it. That's just that's the fact. Yeah.
As my Joe would say, it's time to pull up the big girl panties and deal with it.
Well, yeah, and it is. It really is. It's like I have no tolerance for people who that 101 class, like UFOs 101.
Yeah.
I have no tolerance for that. I have graduated from that school a long time ago, and I'm not going there to pick anybody up from class. You're on your own. Take the bus. I mean, at this point, I'm more interested to hear about people who want to share their ideas, their experiences, people who want to contribute to the topic and not just diminish it.
Yeah, exactly. The question of existence has been answered so many times at this point that it's not even worth asking the question anymore. To ask the question is ridiculous. It's redonkulous is how I would put it. The question has been answered. We need to move on from that question and get into the more important questions, which is, why are they here? What are they doing here, and what kind of fate do they have in store for us? Are they here for good means or bad means? Or are there a mix of the two?
Well,
are they just like us, where there's a mix of good and bad in all of us?
Mary tells me, Marie, I'm sorry, tells me that they're here for the human experience, which they can't have otherwise.
Right. Exactly. So it's very interesting, when you start getting away from the question of their existence, you can start getting into the much more interesting topics, I think. And I'm glad that you, for one, have stepped away from asking that question. You've had the answer proven to you beyond a shadow of a doubt, and you now know that they really do exist.
Right.
So,
and here's what the bottom line for me is. We keep asking for them to let us know they're here. I mean, some of you are waiting for them to dial your number and call you on the phone. Hello. Even if they did that, you wouldn't believe it. If they hovered above your house, you wouldn't believe the government, holograms, this, that. Look, okay, maybe some of that's true, but the fact is I took I was supposed to see them. They let me see them. So there was a reason for that. I'm supposed to know they're real, and I'm supposed to tell you about it, and I'm doing it. And so I'm doing my job. I mean, this is what I do. And I'm not going to lie about it. I have no reason to lie about it. I'm not selling a book, at least not yet. I don't have any book for sale. Yeah, speaking of book, it's getting proofread and all that stuff yet. It's taken a while. But anyways, I took the sign. I mean, that's like people who walk into a crop circle and then sit there and scratch their head and go, I wonder if there's aliens out there. Then they're standing right in the middle of the crop circle. That's like, I see this craft of what I'm supposed to deny, or I'm supposed to ignore the fact of what I seen. I seen it. I wasn't on LSD. I wasn't eating mushrooms. I wasn't on pharmaceuticals. I wasn't half dead. I didn't get hit by a car. I'm not trying to get on George Norrie's show. I'm just telling you what I seen. So, I'm not going to lie to you. And so
exactly.
That's what it is. So, where'd it come from? Well, that's the next question. That's the question you got to ask now. Where'd it come from?
Not whether or not it actually happened, but why was it there?
Yeah.
Who was it, and why were they there?
Yeah, exactly.
That's the thing that we need to all start moving into. And I mean, it's really amazing once you've kind of opened your eyes to things a little bit and open your mind to the possibilities. You really do start seeing these things more and more frequently.
Yeah, and just for the people who always ask, oh, why didn't you get a picture of it? You know what, folks? I wish to God I did. Not for any of you. I'm sorry, I'm not being rude, but not for any of you. I wish I took a pic so I could look at it again, so I could see it again. I wish I took a pic, but you know what? The camera was in the house, and for me to get that camera, I would have to take my eyes off this thing and go into the house to get it. Hell no. No way was I going to miss what might be the only opportunity I ever get. Nope.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it.
That's the same way with me when I've experienced mine. It when you see it, it's like, the last thing you think about is I got to pull the camera out and take a picture. You know, it's like way far from the top of your mind. You're more like, holy crap, what is that? You know, and you're just kind of sitting there stunned as this thing's going around.
I was more than stunned. I'm not kidding you. Autumn could tell you. You can ask her. Anybody, hit her on Facebook and ask her. I ran underneath this thing, and I was screaming and yelling and jumping in the air like a kid who just got the brand new newest video game for Christmas. I was going nuts. I was like, yee freaking haw. All right. And none of my neighbors, which is a very quiet little spot we were in, none of my neighbors looked out the window, come outside to see what was going on. None of them. Now, any other time they would, but nobody came out. And I'm like, why was I supposed to see this thing? Why isn't anybody? Because I had nosy neighbors that are always watching you. Nobody there. Nobody comes out to see anything. And I made a hell of a lot of noise. So, and it was what, like 1:30 in the morning? So
yeah, and it's like it was only you that was existing at that time, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, but that was great. I punched the side of the house a few times to get Autumn to come out because I wasn't even going to go in to get her. It's like, come out and see it, or you're going to just keep hearing me talk about it, because it was just amazing. It was incredible. I'd never seen nothing like it, and I'm excited. I can't wait to learn more about this. I can't wait to one day walk on one of these damn things and go inside and see what it's about. Indeed. Hope. Yeah. So with that, Ira, the night's flown by. No FBI though. So
no, unfortunately,
Federal Bureau of Missing in action. So. But anyways, it's been a great show anyhow. So, Ira, you'll be taking over tomorrow night. I'll be back on Friday. Whew, all right.
Yeah, tomorrow I will be on with Joe and Maggie. It's going to turn out to be a really interesting show, I think. So Maggie the Psychic, she's going to be online with us for 3 hours, and who knows where that's going to lead. So it could be very interesting.
All right. And folks, call in. Call into our shows when they're live. Call in. Here's what gets me, Ira. I listen to some of these other shows that I know are far from real. And people calling in about all this different stuff that, and it's like, I got to start to believe that they got to all be actors, because we got a hell of a lot of listeners, and we just, you wouldn't know it by the calls.
Everybody's no-shows.
Yeah, it's just amazing. But okay, well, that's going to do it for us, folks. Thank you so much for joining us, for Ira and Jolene, for Joshua, for all of our moderators, SurferNet and Journey Home and Bruce and whoever else I'm forgetting. Thank you all for joining us here tonight on this edition of Late Night in the Midlands on the LNM Radio Network. Keep your eyes posted to the sky, because you never know what you might see. And keep your ears posted to this broadcast, because you never know what you might learn. Good night, everybody. We'll be back with you tomorrow night.
the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.